But if the country is to prosper in the longer term, the health of future generations must somehow be ensured. And if the president solves some of the problems associated with the rollout, the government might even be able to foot the bill. This inquiry was presented by me, Tanya Beckett, produced by Vicky Farncombe, researched by Maeve Schaffer, edited by Tara McDermott, and the technical producer was Nikki Edwards.
BBC.
That was the inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho here on CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and this is Information Radio. We're live downtown with our studios on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Thanks for joining us wherever you're joining us from this morning. It's 3 minutes to 6 a.m., and we're on air with you until 8:37 here. Let's say good morning to the team. Corey Funk is going to be answering your commuter calls. Corey directs the show. Good morning, Corey. Good morning, Mr. Abby Adiemi, who's behind the controls, our senior tech, and Abby also will be covering the weather on air with us. And Mr. Brad Lilly saying hello to you, our director and producer of our YouTube stream, if you're watching the show there. Well, before we get into current conditions and what's happening around the province this morning, let's go to Heather Wells for news headlines.
Good morning. Well, a narrow victory for the Progressive Conservatives yesterday in Spruce Woods. Colleen Robbins won the constituency for the PCs by just 70 votes. Brandon University political science teacher Kelly Saunders says that close vote is also a win for the NDP. She says the result reflects Premier Rob Canu's popularity, and she says the fact the PCs did not win by a large margin suggests the party's still struggling to find its way. You could start paying a little less at the grocery store this fall. September 1st is when Canada removes its tariffs on CUSMA-compliant U.S. goods, but experts warn consumers it may take some time before you start to see the difference on your grocery bill. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right, thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, if you do need us on the morning commute today, 788-3093, just want to mention that. Also, we have the federal minister on the program today after 8 o'clock live in studio with us, the federal minister in this country who is in charge of emergency management. So we certainly are going to be asking about wildfires, and we are also going to be asking about some of the economic promises that have been made for diversification across the prairies in Manitoba, moving forward economically in the face of tariffs. So stay tuned for that interview. Also, in the first hour of the show, we're going to find out about a party that's happening over at Portage Place today and in the downtown area. So we're going to find out more about what's going on and what that signals. Plus, a little bit later in the program, we have coverage on many more stories that you can check out on our website right now at cbc.ca/Manitoba while you're making your way through your day. You're going to notice there are some puddles around. We did have some overnight rain, and we'll get into your forecast right after we hear from what's happening in national and international news.
On cue.
I'm Talia Schlanger in for Tom Power. Raphael Bob Waxberg is the creative mind behind the adult cartoon BoJack Horseman.
Guess I'll give up forever. That's the spirit.
He'll tell you about his new show, Long Story Short.
I should suffer in silence?
Yes, that is what life is about.
And why he likes to explore big emotional feelings through animation.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Kate McKenna.
Prime Minister, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Welcome to Dodgy. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Latvia, meeting Canadian troops stationed there with Operation Reassurance. It's part of a mission to deter Russian aggression in Europe. Yesterday, Carney announced he will keep Canadian troops in Latvia until 2029. The CBC's Murray Brewster is traveling with the Prime Minister. We reached him in a mess tent on a base. Murray, tell us about the Prime Minister's decision to extend this mission.
Well, in many respects, the extension of this mission was expected. I mean, Canada is leading the multinational NATO brigade. It has for a number of years now. It would be a tough commitment to walk away from. It is Canada's largest overseas deployment, and it is our biggest international contribution to deterrence. Now, the Prime Minister said that the threat from Russia is long-term and that it's not going away anytime soon.
Putin seeks darkness, not glasnost. He seeks empire, not perestroika. We can't trust but verify with Putin. We must deter and fortify.
Now, this is coming on the heels of the Carney government putting $9 billion extra dollars into the Defense Department to get Canada to meet its 2% GDP NATO commitment.
What does this mean for members of the Canadian military?
Well, the military is facing personnel shortages at home. It's also facing increased demands at home because it's being deployed more often to fight wildfires and to deal with natural disasters. So it's going to put a strain on the forces as they try to rebuild. The Chief of the Defense Staff has said that the military is looking to recruit more people, but it is still a building process. The commander of the multinational brigade is Canadian Colonel Chris Reeves, and this is what he had to say about the extension of the mission.
And the government of Canada just told me that we got your back.
There are approximately 2,500 Canadian troops that are part of this deployment. Overall, the brigade that they're leading with 14 other nations makes it 3,500 troops in Latvia here to deter Russia in case anything goes wrong in the Baltics.
Murray Brewster in Latvia. Thanks, Murray.
You're welcome.
U.S. President Donald Trump's 50% tariff on India kicks in this morning. Trump threatened the levy in the past as a response to India's continued purchase of Russian oil. The White House says it is indirectly funding Moscow's war in Ukraine, but many say this could have severe consequences with one of America's key trading partners. The CBC's South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has more.
The machines polishing and cutting gems in India's diamond hub in the western state of Gujarat are still running, but much more slowly, with the tariff on India's exports to the United States now doubled to 50%.
25% also was very difficult to digest, 50% to entire industries in trauma.
A disaster scenario, says Kirit Bansali, who heads India's Gem and Diamond Industries Export Promotion Council. Some 175,000 workers will be directly affected, he says. And the worst of it?
At present, I don't see any good news to come.
The extra tariff is punishment, U.S. President Donald Trump says, because India buys Russian oil. It's cast a chill over U.S.-India relations, plunging not just India's diamond industry, but also shrimp exporters, clothing manufacturers, and carpet makers into a panic.
Mr. Trump, of course, wants a win, and everyone else seems to be giving him a win.
But it's hard for India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to make concessions with a domestic audience paying close attention, says foreign policy analyst Harsh Pant with Delhi's Observer Research Foundation, especially as Trump repeatedly tries to take credit for a de-escalation of tensions between India and bitter rival Pakistan earlier this year.
The public mood has hardened against Mr. Trump and the administration.
And so trade talks to alleviate the new import duties are not in good shape, leaving many working in the factories affected worried about what's next. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Vancouver.
At least 34 people are dead as monsoon rains continue to hit parts of India and Pakistan. Several other people were injured in a landslide during a Hindu pilgrimage in India's northern Katra region. Rescue crews continue to scour the Himalayan region, and officials have now suspended the annual pilgrimage. Monsoon rains have been pounding both countries for days. More than 150,000 people have been displaced due to flooding and landslides. The United States Special Envoy to the Middle East is making a bold prediction. He says the war in Gaza will be settled before the end of the year. Today, U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to chair a meeting on the war in Gaza. Steve Witkoff says the focus will be a post-war plan for rebuilding the region. The CBC's Lisa Shing joins me now from Washington. What can you tell us about this meeting with Donald Trump?
Well, Kate, we don't have a lot of details at this point, just that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said in an interview on Fox News there will be talks later today on what the next day in Gaza looks like, referencing the end of Israel's war in the territory. Now, remember earlier this year, Trump floated the idea the U.S. should take over control of the region, clear out its 2 million residents, and build seaside real estate, calling it the Riviera of the Middle East. That plan heavily criticized by European and Arab states. This is what Witkoff said yesterday.
We've got a large meeting in the White House tomorrow, chaired by the president, and it's a very comprehensive plan we're putting together on the next day that I think many people are going to be, they're going to see how robust it is and how well-meaning it is. And it reflects President Trump's humanitarian motives here.
Witkoff also said he expected the war to be settled by the end of the year, but did not offer any concrete details on that.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is also set to hold a meeting on Gaza. What do we know about that?
Yeah, so according to Rubio's public schedule, he has a meeting scheduled with Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar at the State Department this afternoon. And this comes as the U.S. has mostly been silent around the growing public condemnation of Israel as famine unfolds in Gaza and as mediators wait on Israel to accept a ceasefire deal Hamas agreed to a week ago. So all of this unfolding as the latest Israeli attack killed 20 people at a hospital in the south earlier this week.
All right. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Lisa Shing in Washington. Police in Haiti say they have regained control of a critical telecommunications hub. It was seized by heavily armed gangs last week. The move briefly disrupted air traffic and internet connections. Haiti's National Police launched an operation that began before dawn on Monday to regain control of the teleco site. They did not say how many people were killed in that mission, but this is being seen as a rare success for Haitian authorities and the UN-backed mission led by Kenyan police, which have struggled to take Port-au-Prince back from gangs. A Cree community in Saskatchewan is pushing to become the newest First Nation in Canada. The federal government forced the Peter Chapman Band to merge into a larger nation more than a century ago. But after a decades-long fight, the community has renewed hope it will get official recognition. Alexander Silberman has the story.
This was just a canola field a year and a half ago.
In the heart of central Saskatchewan, Adam Whitehead is giving a tour of his busy community of Peter Chapman First Nation, with dozens of buildings quickly rising next to fields of wheat. A new band office, public works garage, sports fields, and 28 houses. Just the start of plans for the nation.
Shows the government that we are serious.
Whitehead, a band counselor, says the construction boom is part of a renewed push to become an independent First Nation band. The federal government forced it to merge with two others in the early 1900s and still considers Peter Chapman part of James Smith Cree Nation.
Historically, we were supposed to be a First Nation on our own.
Chief Robert Head says regaining recognition will allow for funding agreements with Ottawa on healthcare, housing, and education.
Should have allowed us to evolve as our own First Nation. But all that was taken away from us.
The federal government says it's currently engaged in a process with the three communities to consider the split. Elder and former Chief Phyllis Head says watching the community grow gives her hope.
For many, many years, this issue has been worked on and it's going to become a reality, you know.
A reality the three communities say will help right a historical wrong. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Peter Chapman First Nation.
That's the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Kate McKenna. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. Welcome to Wednesday. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Great to be back with you here on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Had a little bit of rain overnight. Today, mix of sun and cloud. We will get into that forecast in just a moment. This hour on the program, when's the last time you were downtown? I mean, really downtown. Spent some time downtown. Maybe went into Portage Place. Well, today, Portage Place opens its doors to the public. There's a community celebration. We're going to hear all about it and also about the plans for downtown moving forward. Stay tuned. In addition, let's talk about nurses. To keep nurses in the profession, they need their safety protected and they need to be not exhausted. Now, those are two things that we have heard from nurses in Manitoba over many months. A recent report this year saying those are two of the issues. However, now we're looking at the findings of a new report federally. So the Canadian Federation of Nurses Unions looked at this in a national level, I should say. We will hear about that and what they found at the Canada-wide level about what's impacting nurses the most. So that is coming up this hour also. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells for other news and local stories and headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a close race yesterday in Spruce Woods.
A win is a win, baby!
PC leader Avi Khan celebrating his party's narrow victory in Spruce Woods by-election. The PCs held on to that seat by just 70 votes. It's a big change from the 2023 election when the margin of victory for the Tories was more than 3,000 votes. We're going to hear some analysis coming up. As well, the mayor of a Winnipeg suburb is taking flack from some constituents. She was caught on a hot mic venting frustration about residents opposed to townhouses and apartment buildings in the rural municipality. We'll hear that story as well in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Heather. Nice to be on the air with you again.
Yes, welcome back.
Right? Yeah, you as well. It's been kind of a mishmash of I was off a few days and then you were back. And
Summertime.
Yeah,
hey?
Exactly. Back and forth. So here we go, fall next week already, right?
Yeah, nice to be with you again.
You as well. All right, for any stories you hear Heather doing on the air here, of course, just a reminder to go to our website for more detail. Speaking of more detail, I mentioned a bit about the weather, but let's get into our forecast for today with Abby Adiyemi. Welcome back to you too.
Yeah, thank you, Marcy. Good morning. Warm and partly cloudy day we're expecting across board from north all the way down south. We see a mix of sun and clouds in a lot of the regions today. Right now in Winnipeg, it is 20 degrees, cloudy outside. We saw that overnight showers. You wake up to wet streets this morning, but the morning stats calm and mild. Through the day, expect a mix of sun and clouds with temperatures climbing to around the low teens by late morning. And then this afternoon, we'll see temperatures climb to around 28 degrees. And with the humidity factored in, it's going to feel around 33 degrees. So it might feel humid at some point in the afternoon. There's a chance of slim showers still in the forecast and a risk of thunderstorms, but the winds will stay light at first. Then it's going to shift to breezy coming from the north later on. And then this evening, any sign of those showers or thunderstorms should be moving out, and we're going to see clear conditions into the overnight. Across the southern regions, we're seeing 11 to 20 degrees in most of the regions, and up north, we're seeing 15 to 25 degrees. Also, some clear conditions up north, and then partly cloudy in some areas. But today, it's looking like the south will be warming up again, similar to yesterday.
All right. Thanks very much, Abby.
Thank you.
Yeah, we had that weather that reminded us how close, the beginning of school is and September is, and now we're kind of back into this sticky stuff. Let's find out about the morning commute. Corey Funk is here to set up our day. How do you?
Hello. Yes, in the city here, still fairly quiet. Haven't heard of any major issues, but a reminder that in terms of the highways up north, Highway 391 from Leaf Rapids to Lynn Lake still closed because of the wildfire in the area. That's also includes Highway 493 from Leaf Rapids to South Indian Lake as well, completely closed both ways because of that wildfire in the area. Other than that, though, if you're out there, you see something going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
6:15 a.m. is the time right now, and I mentioned Portage Place. Well, last year, we learned that Portage Place, Winnipeg's downtown shopping center, is being redeveloped. It will become home to a healthcare center, to affordable housing units, and a grocery store. Now, this is all on track for 2028. True North Real Estate and Development acquired them all in November 2024 last year, with plans to carry out this transformation in phases. So phase one is focused on the Healthcare Center of Excellence. That is a multi-service facility. It'll have clinics and physiotherapy, MRIs, and day surgeries all downtown here. The mall, though, has remained open to shoppers and businesses during construction. And later today, to kind of boost that and get people into the downtown and thinking about being downtown more often, there's a free community party that's going to be held in Portage Place. So we thought we'd start the show there. Sean Cavanaugh is with us via Zoom, Senior Director of Strategic Communication of True North Real Estate and Development, and joins us now. Hi there, Sean.
Good morning, Marcy.
So tell me a little bit about the purpose of this gathering today.
Well, I think you hit on one of the points, to try and encourage people to come downtown. And most specifically with respect to Portage Place, remind folks that it's open. We're open and we're going to stay open. And I think that when you think about a very, very large construction project like we're in the midst of at the mall, the temptation would be to close the entire structure down, get about your business, and then reopen in 3.5 years or so whenever you're ready to go. We really felt that the building, it's such a significant part of the infrastructure of downtown. It was necessary to do everything we could to keep it open, to keep that, downtown's like multiple heartbeats in a lot of respects. We have a pretty spread out downtown with a lot of fascinating places, Exchange and the Shed and the Forks and all these other places. And Portage Place is one of those heartbeats. So the driving goal is keep it open and keep it part of the community while we do the construction. And of course, when we started construction, we had to close Skywalk, some doors, food court, sort of parts of the building that people had relied on. We kind of interrupted migratory patterns out there, and we just wanted to signal we're going to do our very level best to keep it going during the construction and send a signal. We're open and we're committed.
So when you look at the party today is of course a celebration to signal that, but will during this construction, which will be going on for years, is the plan then to be open when you can, or will there always be part of Portage Place open throughout?
Open throughout.
Okay.
Yeah. The idea is that, folks used to refer to, the clock tower atrium as kind of the center of the building. And we've shifted it a little bit west to the section, in between that area and the Y. So that'll be our sort of central block for the next 3 years.
Got it.
And that's what we'll keep open.
Just remind us, Sean, I mentioned some of the broad strokes of the plans, but some people might be hearing about businesses downtown, right now, and businesses in Portage Place. And also you mentioned the food court. In the long-term plan, will those things close? Because this will now be a multiplex that is different from being a mall, or will you keep some of those retail components?
There will be a retail component. It's critical to have activity in the downtown, and specifically in what will be the final iteration of Portage Place. But it's going to be a mixture of what was there and new. You mentioned in the opening a grocery store. That's a piece of the puzzle in downtown we've talked about, 20 years longer. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then, we're interested in seeking out community-based organizations that could take up a home in the center part of the mall. We're going to try and leverage the amazing partners that are already in the building. The Downtown Y is such a significant player. It's such an amazing partner. So we'll try and find ways to accentuate that relationship. Some retail, it'll be a whole mix of stuff.
When is phase one? Remind us when phase one is going to be done then?
Well,
or the plan for it?
Construction projects being what they are, and we've got, 2 towers, a health tower that is significantly complicated anytime you build a structure like that. It's a long period of time, HVAC, electrical.
Okay, let me rephrase that. People might be listening thinking, Sean mentioned a grocery store. Is that phase one? And is that going to be by like the end of the year, end of next year?
No, that's further out.
Okay.
We'll focus on the health tower, and then in concert with our partners at the Southern Chiefs organization for the residential tower, that'll get on later towards the end of this year, early in the next year. So you'll start to see both begin to rise, and if the scheduling is right, actually the residential tower will be completed first.
Got it. So that's the order of events in the plan.
Yeah. Maintaining that center block.
Can I ask you about something that over the years, I think is going to be no surprise, this question to Winnipeggers hearing me ask this, Manitobans. Portage Place over the years did pick up, at moments some stigmas around safety,
Yes.
and then also some truths around some incidents in the mall that were affecting people's safety and some concerns. How confident are you the redevelopment phase in this, I mean, it's completely, going to be changing, will change public perception about coming to Portage Place and also about safety in the city's core?
Yeah, you have to acknowledge the building's history. And, I mean, I was a reporter and did stories about it over the years. It had challenges, and the downtown and our whole community has challenges with respect to mental health, addictions, and homelessness. It's a crisis we're all trying to come to grips with as a team. Private partners, public partners, the three levels of government, relationships with Indigenous organizations like Southern Chiefs, all on the same page trying to get underneath this and push it out of the way. I believe, and I think that it's the commitment of the companies around True North that those partnerships and a relentless pursuit of community-based solutions is going to make a real difference.
It's going to shift the perception and try to and change and be a part of the community in a different way.
100%. And we've already instituted things in the mall that hadn't been there before.
Yeah.
We increased security inside. We put community ambassadors, people with lived experience and understanding of the community to build relationships with the folks in the downtown. Those steps are critical in piece by piece getting to a
Moving
safer,
forward.
more prosperous, respectful downtown.
Well, we
Yeah.
will talk again. Today's going to be the community party, 11 to 2 in the Central Block. And
Lots of fun, yeah.
Yeah. So thanks very much for being on with us early and kicking off the show. Nice to see you.
All the best, Marcy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Sean Cavanaugh up early, starting CBC's Information Radio today. Sean's a Senior Director of Strategic Communications of the True North Real Estate and Development Organization. Now, the Love Your Downtown Community Celebration, if you want to go, it is today. Portage Place Central Block. You can check out online and on their socials for more details on what they're going to be doing specifically. But we know the purpose, to welcome people back downtown. So between 11 and 2 at Portage Place.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world. Staying on top of stories around the globe. And connected close to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want and where you want. On Canada's News app. Now with CBC Radio 1. Local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
Time right now is 6:24, and in CBC Manitoba News earlier this year, a report came out in February looking at the realities that nurses are facing in this province. It was a 36-page report. One of the things that it addressed, and we went through at CBC some of the challenges here, is the realities nurses have been seeing, they say, for years. They say they continue to drown in a healthcare system that is failing frontline workers and patients that they care for. And over this time, CBC's reported on stories of burnout. We also have reported on increasing numbers of people with various challenges in our waiting rooms and our ERs and such, and taking off beds because there's no space for them otherwise, including a lot of our houseless population. And there's also some safety concerns that we've been reporting on as well that affect nurses. Well, it turns out that all of those things are factoring across Canada. In Canada, nurses are saying they're often overworked, maltreated, and burnt out on the job. So those three things are the main findings of a new report nationally. This is by the Canadian Federation of Nurses Unions, looking into how to retain nurses in the public system at a time when many are leaving. Now, this morning, we have on with us the president of the CFNU, Linda Silas. She is in Moncton, New Brunswick. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what are nurses sharing with you about why they're leaving the profession?
They're tired. You said in your introducing comment, Manitoba had a report that they were drowning. We're seeing the same thing across Canada. The workplace is really killing them. We see clinical signs of burnout, but a lot of moral distress, and that is just the last few years where nurses go home every night and think, did I do a good job? Did I miss something? Did I give the right medication? Did I hurt a patient? Did I do what I could? And that pressure is building on them, that our new grads are saying, I'm not staying in this. 2-3 years, I'm out. I'm looking for the exit door.
How unusual is that for nurses early in the profession to look for the exit door?
That is recent, that's the last 5-6 years where we're seeing more of them speaking out that they won't stay in nursing for so long, for a long career like mine, over 30 years. And that's why we hired Dr. Kim McMillan at the University of Ottawa and her team to go across the country and not only find out what we already knew, because the Manitoba Nurses Union have said it many times in Manitoba, we need help, we need nurse-patient ratios, we need respect, we need flexibility. We needed to know what was the picture across the country, but also what the solutions were. And that's what our team came up with.
So let's focus on that, the solutions. What are you hearing that you think first of all, is being enacted on by some provinces, and maybe it's just slow because there has been some, a lot of movement here to try to get more people in the system and such. But also what solutions you think should be top of mind that you're not hearing governments talk about,
So what we're hearing a lot is bonuses, and I call those Band-Aids. And, of course, to get a $5,000, $10,000 here and there, it's always fun, but they're gone. And they just give you the commitment that you promised the employer to do. The good things that are happening are British Columbia and Saskatchewan, British Columbia, Nova Scotia, where they're talking about nurse-patient ratios. They're talking about giving nurses and patients the guarantee that based on the patient acuity, you will not get more patients than XYZ. So, for example, in med-surg, 1 nurse for 4 patients, because that's what science says you should be having. We heard the Premier of Manitoba, we heard the Minister of Manitoba 2 years ago talk to MNU and say, we're going to implement nurse-patient ratio in this province. Well, we need to work quicker on that, because that's the professional respect nurses are asking. They're saying, respect us as a critical safety industry. We are the link to patient safety. And when I can do a good job, I will stay in nursing and I will stay in my community.
So if you can't get nurses in the system quick enough, healthcare workers, and efforts are being made across the country and different things in Manitoba as well, and you have the continual number of patients, how do you improve the ratio in the meantime? Do you have to close portions of your, I hate to say this, but your healthcare facilities or beds to meet the ratio? Because otherwise, I'm not sure what the swift way forward is. How do you see it?
You might have to close. We're talking about safety here. And, we just went through an airline debate. I guarantee you, if there's not enough pilots and not enough flight attendants, planes don't fly. But in healthcare, we feel if there's not enough nurses, we just piled on to them. That is not safe, and that's what's burning out our nurses. Manitoba was the first province to be very creative in this casual, flexible pool that will eliminate our private agencies, and they're employed by the health authorities. They can go up north, they can go in urban areas if they need. So nurses get that flexibility, those challenges they've been looking for. That is being creative. We need more of that. We need to really put the gas on all of those and expand them.
We will leave it there. Where can people find the report if they want to read through some of the top line findings or the entire report, Linda?
So it's on our website, nursesunions.ca.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So if you want to read more, one of the things that we just didn't have time to dig into more deeply were some of the solutions to physical violence against nurses. They include increasing security guards and metal detectors, although the solutions really do start at the system level. When you look at the analysis in the report, you can find it at nursesunions.ca. Linda Silas was with us, president of the Canadian Federation of Nurses Unions. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and we'll get into your weather and traffic for this Wednesday morning after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is a warm start to Wednesday. 20 degrees right now. We had some overnight light rain. We may see showers again through the day. Mix of sun and clouds, though. Bit of a breeze and a high today of 28. Well, a close race in Spruce Woods. Ray Berthollet did not win last night's by-election for the NDP in Spruce Woods, but he came close, losing to the PC's Colleen Robbins by only 70 votes. That result came as a surprise to some because the Southwest Manitoba seat traditionally is a Tory stronghold. Even Berthollet tells party supporters he was surprised.
I was saying, maybe 1,500 and I'll be happy. But it started steamrolling and steamrolling and steamrolling. And with the effort of the team, because it's all about a team, and our Premier's support, it was just unbelievable.
Premier Wab Kinew says that tight race shows the end of the urban-rural divide when it comes to politics. Kelly Saunders teaches political science at Brandon University. She says the result reflects Premier Kinew's popularity.
This is clearly a win for the NDP, even though they technically did not manage to flip the seat, but certainly significantly closed the vote spread between themselves and the PCs. Certainly have a lot of momentum that they can build over the next 2 years as we head towards the next general election in Manitoba.
Saunders says the fact the PCs did not win Spruce Woods by a large margin suggests the party is still struggling to find its way since losing to the NDP in 2023. Meanwhile, she says the Liberal candidate also ran a strong race and likely split the vote. The mayor of a Winnipeg suburb is taking flack from some constituents. She was caught on a hot mic venting frustration about residents opposed to townhouses and apartment buildings in their rural municipality. We hear that story from CBC reporter Bartley Kivas.
This just hit me, and I'm actually ready to resign and walk out.
That's Mayor Carla Devlin of East St. Paul, caught on a hot mic during a break in a council meeting on August 19th. More than 100 residents showed up to oppose a new planning framework. During the break, she and a planning official discussed making it simpler.
Well, how many times did I get done that down?
Some East St. Paul constituents are upset with the mayor's comments. Craig Hodkinson says most residents understand what a planning framework is supposed to accomplish.
Us not liking it doesn't mean that we're too dumb to understand it.
Devlin said in the statement she wasn't feeling well during the council meeting and she regrets her comments were overheard. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, you could start paying a little less at the grocery store this fall. September 1st is when Canada removes its tariffs on CUSMA-compliant U.S. goods. But experts warn consumers it may take some time before you see the difference on your grocery bill. Sylvain Charlebois is a visiting scholar at McGill University who specializes in food science, food policy, and food distribution.
The center of the store, dry goods, pantry goods. We're expecting many products to drop in price. Coffee will be a big one. Obviously, citrus fruits, any citrus products will likely drop in price as well.
Charlebois expects Canadians to be more conscious of labels in the grocery store, even when those levies are gone. Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney has closed out his 4-day trip to Europe with a visit with the Canadian troops stationed in Latvia.
If we're going to defend and advance our values of freedom, of democracy and peace, Canada must do so from a position of strength.
The Canadian Armed Forces are in Latvia as part of Operation Reassurance, an ongoing mission to deter further Russian aggression in Europe. Carney has announced it is being extended until at least 2029. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. A top Parks Canada official at Riding Mountain has been replaced after backlash from business and cottagers. In May, the park superintendent banned all boats on Clear Lake instead of proceeding with a one-boat, one-lake plan to control zebra mussels. The group Fairness for Clear Lake was formed after the ban. Jason Potter is president of Wasagaming Chamber of Commerce. He says communication with park staff has been horrible for 2 years.
We just want to make it so that if there's something coming down, there's a proper dialogue between all people in the community.
Parks Canada confirms it has appointed a new superintendent. Potter hopes the boat ban will be reversed. The Steinbach Arts Council is growing so much, it's running out of room. It's outgrowing its current studio on 2nd Street. So the council is taking some of its workshops and programs to different places in Steinbach, like the Rest Haven Care Home. Tanis Nickel is the CEO of Haven Group, which oversees Rest Haven.
Working in partnership with Steinbach Arts Council provides opportunities that might not otherwise be afforded to the resident just because of cost of leaving the facility and transportation and accessibility issues.
The programming at care homes in Steinbach started as a pilot project and is being expanded this year. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into our regional forecast details now with Abby Adiemi.
Good morning once again. A warm and sunny day. We'll see cloudy conditions also from the south, tracking it all the way up north. Winnipeg, 20 degrees right now, cloudy outside. We see that transition to a mix of sun and clouds later. There's a risk of thunderstorm and a slim chance of showers in the forecast somewhere in the afternoon. We'll see temperatures get to 28 degrees. In other parts of the province, Brandon is at 11, Dauphin 14, both clearing those regions. Gimli's at 17, the powerful influence we're seeing 15 degrees there, expecting a mix of sun and clouds. And in Thompson, it's cloudy. We'll see some clear conditions by the noon period, a slim chance of showers also in that part of the province. And in Churchill, we're looking at 7 degrees and a cloudy start, clearing today, highs around 15. So across board, it's more like sun, clouds, and a few showers. Winnipeg, 20 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into the morning commute. If you're driving, you might see actually a few puddles around town from last night. Corey.
Yes, I definitely biked through a few. Very glad I had fenders, but definitely still got a little wet. But in terms of just issues here in the city, no major issues that I've seen yet. The one thing you might want to keep an eye on, I'm sure you're well aware of if you are up north, is that Highway 391 from Leaf Rapids to Lynn Lake still completely closed, as well as Highway 493 from Leaf Rapids to South Indian Lakes still completely closed as well because of fires in the area. Other than that, though, things are running fairly smoothly here in the city or elsewhere on the highways. But if you see something going on, give me a call on that CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing. If you're walking, biking, driving, would love to hear from you. That number, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
I just want to mention that still ahead, we're going to have more detail about Churchill. Prime Minister Mark Carney announcing yesterday Churchill becoming a shipping corridor for natural gas from Canada to Europe. And we also heard from some people that have concerns about development up in Churchill. So we will have more on that in a moment. But that is actually where the business report is starting with Phil Demont. Here he is with us now live. Good morning, Phil.
Morning, Marcy.
So Ottawa's planning not just to make big upgrades to the port at Churchill, but also Montreal. Tell me a little bit about the, what might be the bigger strategy here, because this is beyond local improvement.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes these are one-offs and everybody's getting a bit of money, but I think this is more about diversifying Canada's trade. So they'll upgrade Montreal, Churchill, talking about an eastern port, although they didn't mention one. You could look at Hamilton. I suspect they're more likely looking at the East Coast. $5 billion in various trade infrastructure projects is what Carney's pledged overall. Montreal, that'd be $1.4 billion to upgrade that port. New container pier, improvements to the rail system going into the port. That's important. It's kind of under the radar, but the rail system's going into various ports. I knew this was an issue in Vancouver. They hadn't been improved in a long time, and it's like a bottleneck. All of a sudden, we're getting more stuff going there, but we can't get it there because there's, the trains are narrow gauge or whatever they would be. Also, Churchill. I think that's actually a bigger focus, even though the money isn't as big as Montreal. $43 million is the number I've seen, upgrading that port. But I look at it as key. Part of it's natural gas, but it's open, I think it's a month more than it used to be because of climate change. And I'm looking at that German deal where Canada signed a deal with Germany to develop and ship critical minerals to Europe. Well, the issue there is that it's always better to get bulky commodities off the railway onto the boat as quick as you can. So you don't want to take it from, for argument's sake, Winnipeg, ship it to Halifax and get it to go across the Atlantic that way. It's too expensive. You want it to go to Churchill and send it that way. So I suspect it's more than just natural gas, that they'll be looking at other commodities to go up there because they want to develop European trade. I think Churchill could become a bigger hub for that kind of a situation, because right now there's an infrastructure issue in Canada. We don't have enough of it. And so instead of, let's say, for argument's sake, tripling the size of Montreal, we'd be better off developing another port, and Churchill would look to be, at least in the summer months, a place to do that.
And also, that means a whole bunch of things about understanding the terrain. You're talking about shipping heavy minerals, not wanting them to sit in there, but if even physically heavy things, right? Because we're talking about tracks that at times can be washed out by all kinds of different conditions, and it's like boggy and. So, that investment, we'll have to see how far it goes and what happens. Let's talk about something completely different here. When's the last time I was at a drive-in movie theater? Boy, oh boy, it's been a while. Drive-in movie theaters did get a bit of a boost during COVID. 5 years later, I understand you have some understanding of where they're at now.
Yeah, they're kind of sticking around. So you go back to 2019, drive-ins accounted for 3% of all movie cash. Not a surprise, nobody was going anymore. I can't remember the last. I think I went when I was like 10. Unless I snuck in somebody's trunk, which would not have been out of the realm of possibility.
I might have been in my late 20s. I got to look up when the Nicole Kidman movie The Others was on. That's when we still had a theater here.
Oh, okay. I always went and saw, the plant that ate Pittsburgh kind of movies at the drive-in. Yeah.
Okay, back to the stats.
Indeed. But during the pandemic, they actually became popular because people had to social distance, but they still wanted to enjoy a big movie screen. So you didn't go to movie theaters or as much. Ended up, drive-ins accounted for 85% of all the U.S. box office revenue during the pandemic. Now, it was obviously a smaller number, but 85% from 3 is a big jump. After COVID, some drive-ins closed down, no surprise. But actually, if you look at the number, I think it was 318 were opened in 2021. Basically, almost 90% were still open 3 years later. But the reasons you go are change. One is nostalgia. Some places show big screen-appropriate movies like Jaws, E.T., and great, I can go see that because it's hard to see that unless you're going to stream it, and that's always small for a big movie. But also, they're pushing the dinner idea. So the idea that you could have a real meal in your car and not just have soggy popcorn like you do at the movie theater, you can get actually like food. So there's one drive-in near Montreal. They give a drive-through restaurant, kind of like a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's. You can get stuff off the menu. Then you take your food over to your slot and have actually a real meal. Other ones let you take away dinners into the site, so they're not kind of rooting around with a flashlight. They'll let you take in your chicken dinner from Kentucky or whatever. Basically, drive-ins got a second lease of on life during the pandemic because it looked like they were going to be gone, and some of them actually figuring out how to make the best of it.
How are the markets looking this morning?
Right now, Europe's a little mixed, but all marginal moves. France, UK up a bit, Germany down a bit. Indian tariffs and the fact that the U.S. is threatening China again with tariffs had the Shanghai and Hong Kong markets down more than 1.25%. Oil's down, but only a penny. $63.24 a barrel. Gold's down $9, $3,424 U.S. an ounce. And the Canadian dollar down slightly, 72.21 cents U.S.
All right, Phil, thanks very much.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is Phil DeMont with our business news this morning. By the way, our last drive-in in Winnipeg closed in 2008. I think I was last there around 2002. I was looking up that movie. Let's stay, though, with Phil's top story, which is the Port of Churchill, and understand more about what was said here. So, as I mentioned, Prime Minister Mark Carney saying yesterday, while in Germany, Churchill could become a shipping corridor for natural gas from Canada to Europe. Now, among other resources, adding money for, quote, effectively a new port in Churchill, unquote, could come in weeks. Now, here in Manitoba, though, Fei Wang is keeping a close eye on the Port of Churchill and what development could actually mean, specifically for people, of course, but also for wildlife and for animals that live near it. He's director of the University of Manitoba's Churchill Marine Observatory. He's also Canada Research Chair of Manitoba's Churchill Marine Observatory. Now, he spoke with CBC's Faith Fundel yesterday on Up to Speed. And I believe I've got some errors in the script because I'm looking at Corey, so I apologize. But I'll make my corrections out the back. So this is Fei Wang speaking yesterday with CBC's Faith Fundel.
Well, first of all, it's not a surprise to us at all for those who are researching in this area. To us, it's more about the timing. So I think many of us would say finally that the attention is now rightfully paid to the Port of Churchill. So definitely there's a lot of potential and excitement. But in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of concerns and challenges. And the question is, how? How do we do this properly?
Right, because every year about 57,000 beluga whales migrate to the area. What's your sense of what increased shipping traffic might mean for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first coming to mind is the potential impact on the marine ecosystem with beluga whales on top of everyone's mind. There's a very large number of beluga whales migrating in that area. So shipping, of course, anytime we have increase in shipping activities, there are all kind of potential impacts on them. For example, you may have direct collision of ships with beluga whales, and you also have this ship noise, underwater noise that could affect their migration patterns. And of course, with shipping itself, the ship itself could bring in invasive species that could change the marine ecosystem. And with black carbon emitted from the ship itself, it could have other impacts. And the last but not least, whenever you have shipping, there's always the risk of oil spills. So if you have an oil spill in a northern environment, especially in cold water and sometimes with ice present or nearby, the question is what are the impacts of those oil spills to the marine ecosystem and what can we do about it?
And part of that marine ecosystem, of course, includes polar bears. Churchill is known for his polar bears. But what could this kind of development mean for polar bear populations, for example?
Yeah, I'm not a polar bear expert myself, but of course I've been collaborating, working with a lot of my colleagues who have the expertise in that area. Polar bear, as we all know, that the polar bear population in Churchill it's already been challenged by climate change. So whether there's a shipping or not, the future of polar bear-based ecotourism is in jeopardy. We know that it's because of the direct impact on sea ice, right? So when you have much longer open water season, much shorter ice season, and with much thinner ice, so definitely the polar bear itself will be impacted by climate change itself. So I would say that based on what we are expecting from shipping point of view, the main concern is probably more on the marine mammal side of things. That would be of course beluga whales, seals, and so on.
Fei Wang is a director of the University of Manitoba's Churchill Marine Observatory. We know that the shipping season in Churchill has historically been about 3 months or so. You mentioned climate change. What are you noticing about how much longer the season is getting?
Yeah, we're right in the middle of doing a major shipping season study from Port of Churchill throughout Hudson Bay. And the recent past has telling us that the open water season has increased on average per day every year since at least 1980. So we'll talk about 30 to 40 days longer now compared to early 1980s. When you mentioned the current shipping season is about 3.5 months, that is largely based on the historical sea ice conditions. With the climate change, we know the ice has been becoming thinner, and the ice formation started later in the season, and melting started earlier in the season. So the models that we've been using definitely tells us that the open water season will continue to expand. And so at this time, we have not completed our study just yet, but all different climate scenarios all point to the same direction. That is, the bay will become more navigable and for longer throughout the year. And in probably by 2100, the bay will become more or less navigable all year round.
That sounds like there are pretty big economic impacts. Is that part of your study? Is that something you're looking at as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Our study has always been co-developed with Inuit and indigenous communities in Western Hudson Bay area, as well as in Churchill and Northern Manitoba. And one of the topics that are probably less discussed is climate change. In some cases, it does open up new opportunities for those communities in terms of their own socioeconomic development and accessibility. So many of those regions, many of the communities in these regions are among the most remote in terms of accessibility to commodities, to resupplies. So it does provide that opportunity. So that's why I think you will see there will be welcoming signs from some communities, from folks. But the question is, how do we do this properly, especially given that we'll talk about development in indigenous land, we'll talk about development in sensitive northern and Arctic ecosystems. So really the question is how do we do this properly, not only economically viable, but also culturally sensitive and environmentally sustainable.
So that was Fei Wang in conversation with CBC's Faith Fundal, and I mentioned that there may be an error in what I was saying in the script going into that story. There was not, but I did misspeak, so that's on me. Fei Wang is director of the University of Manitoba's Churchill Marine Observatory, but also wears another hat here. So 2 titles, also the Canada Research Chair in Arctic Environmental Chemistry. If you want to read more about Port of Churchill, what Prime Minister Mark Carney had to say about all of this yesterday, you can check out our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
Wednesday morning on CBC. Great to be back with you. My name's Marcy Marcusa. I host Information Radio here, and that's what you're tuned into, the morning show. Everyone back together. Heather Wells in our news center. Next headlines with her coming up before 7. We have Brad Lillies, our producer of our VMix and YouTube stream. Corey Funk directing the show and covering your commute. And then Abby Adeyemi with weather throughout the program, our senior tech. In Winnipeg downtown, mostly cloudy. It's 20 degrees. Brandon's clear 11. Thompson's misty this Wednesday morning and 9 degrees. Well, they don't make them like they used to. You hear that phrase all the time. People are usually talking about tech, but we're talking washing machines, cars, phones. You do hear that to describe any number of things. Come October, though, there's new rules in Quebec that are going to fight back against what they call planned obsolescence. Does that mean that you are going to see the end of throwaway tech? So in this, consumers have the right to repair. Let's learn about what that means. Tech columnist Francis Sims is with us. Good morning. Good morning. I think we've got you now.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for having me.
So tell us more about planned obsolescence.
Yeah, planned obsolescence, simply put, is when products are designed to wear out faster than they should. So think about a washing machine. If you bought a washing machine in the 1960s, or maybe your parents or grandparents, it was expected to last maybe 30 years, maybe more. You might have repaired the motor multiple times. 10 is the norm. That's what manufacturers mostly target. And I think that's by design. It used to be that manufacturers would design their products so that they would make money by selling it to you, but also they would make money through repairs along the way. Now they don't think like that anymore. They think about making money by selling it to you, and then they'll actually make money later when you actually buy a new product. It has a significant impact for Canadians.
And what do the current laws around right to repair look like in Canada in comparison to what's changing now in Quebec then?
Yeah, up until last year, it was actually not quite legal for you to fix some of your own equipment. Basically, Canada passed a change to the copyright legislation, Bill C-244, that now allows Canadians to bypass digital locks to repair devices. So from phones to farm machinery. Think about this. You're a farmer, all right, in the prairies, you have a harvester, and it's one of these fancy new machines that you bought. It has AI to make sure it doesn't run over something automatically, maybe self-dries. But what happens when that machine breaks down? Well, up until this change, you may not actually be able to fix it yourself. You may not be allowed to fix it yourself. So a smartphone is one thing, right? But something like that can impact your business, right? And the whole season. You may miss a week because you're waiting for somebody to come and repair it. So that was a good change. Now, Quebec has gone further with Bill 29, where they're banning what they call planned obsolescence. So think about this. So maybe your washing machine breaks down, or your harvester. What you might do is you might turn to YouTube to try to figure out how to fix it, but you might not be able to find the parts. So what Quebec has done now is they said that manufacturers have to supply parts, training materials, manuals for a reasonable period of time, probably 7 years. 7 years is what we saw in California, 10 years in Europe, and then Ontario is following quickly behind with Bill 187. So I think we're going to start, now that Canada opened the door with the change to the copyright legislation, we're starting to see provinces step through it and try to hold manufacturers accountable for this obsolescence problem.
This is such a small question, and you may not even have the detail, but if you source the part yourself and fix it under the Quebec law, does it look like you'll be reimbursed for it, or does it just mean you'll have to go through them and they have to provide the part for your right to repair?
No, yeah, it means you just go through them.
Got
and
it.
You have to, yeah. But the hope is that this type of change will force manufacturers to make their products more modular, which will mean these parts hopefully will cost something reasonable. But I imagine that the next step after this happens is that, governments are going to start forcing manufacturers to make it affordable to repair these devices.
Why do you think we've become so used to this kind of consumer culture?
Yeah, I think that mindset was developed over the last 20 years from these manufacturers. And I think that whole smartphone, consumer electronics, computer situation has made it even go more quickly. I mean, we're told we have to buy a new iPhone if you're lucky to have an iPhone or you care about having one every 1 or 2 years, right? That's just wild, right? No, and that was not the way it used to be. I think manufacturers decided that they couldn't make money on the repairs, and so they tried to convince us that it was better for them to make a product that's more cheaply made, lower quality, fall apart sooner, and us to buy new. And an example might be a microwave. You might go to the retailer, maybe Walmart or whatever retailer is in your community, and you spend $200 on a microwave. Not too bad. It breaks down after 5 years, and then you call a repair person. Well, they're so complicated to repair, it's going to cost $150 just to get somebody out, let alone find the part to repair it, which is going to be, if they can find it, really expensive. And so you might think, well, I'm going to go buy that new microwave for $300 that has AI built in. That's part of the mindset that these companies have convinced us that we need to sort of get behind. And I think now with inflation more than ever, these products are they were never really cheap, but cheap is not even in the story anymore, the picture.
I have a minute left, but I want to ask you about the pushback here and whether or not preserving old tech puts a wrench in our ability to progress in the future.
Yeah, I think what's happened here is innovation has been centralized in, say, Silicon Valley, right? And these companies, they're making a lot of money off of selling us the new and the latest and greatest and the next shiny object. But innovation can happen locally, right? I think this right to repair, we see repair clinics across Canada pop up. That can actually drive innovation. I mean, maybe somebody's going to figure out how to use a Samsung battery in an Apple iPhone. That's innovation right there, and that's happening locally. Not only, we didn't even talk about the sustainability piece. 700,000 tons of e-waste every year is generated in Canada. That's the equivalent to 10,000 cars on the road. So not only are we going to create this repair culture and drive innovation that way, but we're driving innovation in the sustainability context, which is better for all of us too.
Thank you very much, Francis. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So this is going to lead us to a listener line question in a moment. So Francis Sims, first of all, though, I want to acknowledge who we were speaking with there, our tech columnist and Associate Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology at Humber Polytechnic. So this is the question I'd love to ask. Do you think that you've got the oldest appliance out there? Or phone, maybe. We've done phones before. You can call in about your phone. But I'm just wondering whether or not you repaired something or you faced this right to repair. Or you were surprised. Don't make them like they used to. And what did you do? So do you have a dishwasher or, I don't know, a microwave, something kicking around that maybe you're proud of it. Maybe you fixed it yourself. 788-3205, 788-3205 with your stories of those things. Let's get into our news headlines now with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, a close race in Spruce Woods.
A win is a win, baby!
PC leader Avi Khan celebrating his party's narrow victory in the Spruce Woods by-election yesterday. The PCs held onto the seat by just 70 votes. A big change from the 2023 election when the margin of victory for the Tories was more than 3,000 votes. You could start paying a little bit less at the grocery store this fall. September 1st is when Canada removes its tariffs on CUSMA-compliant U.S. goods, but experts warn consumers it may take some time before you see the difference on your grocery bill. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
We'll have some more analysis of that in the next hour of the show as well. Also, have you put on your fit boots? There's a fitness craze out right now, and people in Winnipeg are bouncing into shape, and we're going to hear more about it. For the person teaching, it's given her hope and community, she says. So that's coming up from one of our reporters on the scene in the next hour of the show. Also in the next hour of Information Radio, Manitoba has some of the highest rates of COVID-19 wastewater counts in the country right now. That's according to new national wastewater data. A COVID expert's going to join us to break that down and talk more about the significance. 20 degrees right now, mostly cloudy in Winnipeg. Our high 28. It's going to be sticky. And the commute's going fine. Stay tuned. World Report is next on 89.3.
on The Current.
I'm Susan Bonner. Hundreds of U.S. National Guard troops have been patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. as part of Donald Trump's plan to crack down on crime. Now they are armed. What this means and which cities might be next, coming up on The Current.
Mr. President, do not come to Chicago. You are neither wanted here nor needed here.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Kate McKenna. India is being hit with a 50% tariff by the United States. President Donald Trump had threatened the hefty levy in the past, citing India's ongoing purchase of Russian oil. Oil he says is helping to fuel Russia's war in Ukraine. Ajay Shrivastava is the founder of the Global Trade Research Initiative. He says the Trump administration has failed to explain the justification of these new tariffs.
Europe and America both buy so many materials from Russia. China is a bigger buyer. Still, they are targeting India. That's totally unfair.
Several economists and business owners agree and say this new tariff could have severe consequences with one of America's key trading partners. The CBC's South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has more.
The machines polishing and cutting gems in India's diamond hub in the western state of Gujarat are still running, but much more slowly, with the tariff on India's exports to the United States now doubled to 50%.
25% also was very difficult to digest. 50% to entire industries in trauma.
A disaster scenario, says Kirit Bansali, who heads India's Gem and Diamond Industries Export Promotion Council. Some 175,000 workers will be directly affected, he says. And the worst of it?
At present, I don't see any good news to come.
The extra tariff is punishment, U.S. President Donald Trump says, because India buys Russian oil. It's cast a chill over U.S.-India relations, plunging not just India's diamond industry, but also shrimp exporters, clothing manufacturers, and carpet makers into a panic.
Mr. Trump, of course, wants a win. And everyone else seems to be giving him a win.
But it's hard for India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to make concessions with a domestic audience paying close attention, says foreign policy analyst Harsh Pant with Delhi's Observer Research Foundation, especially as Trump repeatedly tries to take credit for a de-escalation of tensions between India and bitter rival Pakistan earlier this year.
The public mood has hardened against Mr. Trump and the administration.
And so trade talks to alleviate the new import duties are not in good shape, leaving many working in the factories affected worried about what's next. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot be trusted, and that is why Canada's involvement in Operation Reassurance is so important. Carney is in Latvia this morning. He just paid a visit to Canadian troops stationed there alongside NATO allies.
If we're going to defend and advance our values of freedom, of democracy and peace, Canada must do so from a position of strength.
Yesterday, Carney announced Canada will extend Operation Reassurance until 2029. It is currently the Canadian Armed Forces' largest overseas mission, aimed at bolstering NATO's borders in Central and Eastern Europe. Moldova, a former Soviet country on the border of Ukraine, is celebrating its independence and gearing up for a new round of elections. But Moldova is a country divided between pro-Europe and pro-Russia forces. And today, the leaders of France, Germany, and Poland are there to give the European side a boost. The CBC's Julia Chapman has more from London.
European leaders fear Moldova's independence is at risk once again. That's why some of them are there, to reinforce the benefits of joining the European Union. Moldova will hold parliamentary elections in September, and authorities warn the Kremlin is running bribery, disinformation, and influence campaigns. Stefan Wolf is a security expert from the University of Birmingham.
There's also a lot of direct Russian interference and control of political parties in Moldova, who might potentially have quite a strong showing in the upcoming elections.
Moldova's President Maya Sandu has tried to set her country on a European path.
Moldova's future lies in the European Union.
In a referendum last year, voters narrowly chose to formalise the country's EU ambition. But nearly half of them voted against the motion.
They don't necessarily think that Russia offers them a better alternative, but it's the disenchantment with those pro-European parties that still really has gripped about half of the Moldovan electorate.
Earlier this month, a regional politician was jailed for using Russian money to finance her party. The Kremlin says that arrest was politically motivated. But as the next election approaches, there are fears Russia could influence the outcome. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says the war in Gaza will be settled before the end of the year. U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to chair a meeting on the war in Gaza today. Witkoff says the focus will be a post-war plan in Gaza.
It's a very comprehensive plan we're putting together on the next day that I think many people are going to be, they're going to see how robust it is and how well-meaning it is.
So far, Israel and Hamas have yet to reach a new ceasefire agreement. The latest proposal, which was accepted by the militant group, included the release of some hostages. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says there will be no agreement until all hostages held by Hamas are released. A Supreme Court judge in Brazil is ordering police to tighten security around Jair Bolsonaro. The former president is under house arrest and considered a flight risk. Bolsonaro is accused of plotting a coup to overturn his 2022 electoral defeat. Final arguments in the case will begin early next month. But police allege he has been considering fleeing to Argentina or the United States. Security officials will now be patrolling the area near his home around the clock. Health experts are warning about a new product being promoted on social media. Caffeine pouches are tiny packets of caffeine placed under the lip directly on the gums. The products claim to deliver a quick jolt of caffeine, but as Alison Northcott reports, experts worry about the potential health risks.
These caffeine energy pouches are the next big thing.
They're tiny pouches of caffeine.
What you do is put that little pouch up in between your gum and your cheek. It absorbs straight into your system.
In a range of flavors like watermelon ice or double mocha. Several brands are promoted by influencers on social media, and some of the products can pack a punch.
200 milligram pouches.
Each pouch can contain between 25 and more than 200 milligrams of caffeine. That's about 2 small cups of coffee. Michael Chaitin is with the Dalalana School of Public Health at the University of Toronto. He says for young people who could be drawn to the products, there could be risk.
You don't just have to use one at a time. And so you can very quickly overload or overdose on caffeine by using 2 or 3 or 4 of them, particularly the highest dose.
The companies we spoke with say their pouches are not meant for kids, and while some specify that on their labels, not all of them do. That worries pediatrician Nicholas Chatty, a specialist in adolescent and addiction medicine at St. Justine Hospital in Montreal.
I think there's a need for scrutiny and caution around these products, especially if they start being used by younger people.
Health Canada says the department is investigating several cases to see if there are products that are breaking federal rules. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
More than 20,000 people have signed a petition to save the Québécois version of The Simpsons. The animated cultural juggernaut has been tailored to the Quebec audience, both in culture and language. But as the CBC's Sarah Levitt tells us, that dubbing is now in jeopardy.
It's the same faces and adventures with a twist. Quebec's version of The Simpsons uses local references. Like there, about a Montreal area shopping center. It name checks some of the province's biggest celebrities. And it replicates the working class language beloved in the show, but using joual instead, Quebec slang. But that dubbing may not be coming back. The work used to be done by Chorus Entertainment, but it didn't renew its broadcasting rights. Instead, it'll be up to Disney Plus, and it appears that's not happening. Disney didn't reply to requests for comment. Joshua Piesotto has launched a petition to save Les Simpsons, saying it's about preserving Quebec culture, a sentiment that Thierry Dubé agrees with.
It's an American show, which is really, really Quebecois.
For the past 8 years, Dubé has played the Quebec version of Homer.
Imagine yourself not having access as a Canadian to the US version of The Simpsons and being forced to watch a UK version.
The hope is Disney listens to the outcry, or else for the first time in 36 years, Les Simpsons won't be available en français québécois.
Qu'est-ce que je vais faire avec cette cochonnerie-là?
Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Kate McKenna. This is CBC News.
What an iconic theme, right? Everybody knows someone that can quote every episode of The Simpsons. Lisa with the sax at the end there. Welcome to Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. And you are with CBC. This is Information Radio, your morning show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. It is 19 degrees in the city of Winnipeg. We'll get into your forecast in a moment. It's going to be hot today, actually, in the city. This hour on the show, we're going to talk about COVID. Manitoba has some of the highest COVID-19 wastewater counts in the country right now. That's according to new national wastewater data. A COVID expert will join us to break down why that matters and also what those numbers look like. In addition, this hour, you got your fit boots on, getting ready to go to work. There's a craze in Winnipeg around fit boots. We'll find out more about what they are and why it has people bouncing into shape. And for the person teaching it, she says it's given her hope and community. And at 10 to 8, Canada set to drop retaliatory tariffs on dozens of American products in the coming weeks. How will that affect you, especially at the grocery store? We're going to walk through that as well. Right now, with more details on these stories and more, Heather Wells is in with our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a close race.
The idea of an urban-rural divide? Not anymore.
Wab Kinu's NDP lost yesterday's by-election in Spruce Woods, but they only lost by 70 votes. The PC's Colleen Robbins is the new MLA, but even though the NDP failed to flip that seat, Brandon University political scientist Kelly Saunders says the NDP is building momentum, while she says the PCs appear to be struggling. A hot mic has East St. Paul's mayor feeling some heat.
How many times have I done that down?
Mayor Carla Devlin caught on hot mic during a break in a council meeting earlier this month, talking about dumbing down a planning framework. More than 100 residents showed up at that meeting opposing the plan. And now some East St. Paul constituents are upset with the mayor's comments. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, group chat before we get to the weather. Heather Wells before the news. Abby Adiyemi, we're going to get you in on this here too. We were talking about everything that's obsolete now. So there's a new law in Quebec that's supposed to help with this. So that means that's a right to repair, right? So we were trying to fish around and see what the oldest thing is, in your life that you might have fixed. Or do you have anything old, Heather, hanging out? Like a dishwasher, microwave? What do you got?
I've got a blender that I actually tried to use because, our food processor broke down. I couldn't make pesto. So I tried the blender. It wouldn't even turn on.
How long have you had that blender?
Oh, my goodness. More than a decade for sure.
Got it. Okay. So more than a decade. Abby, you've got what?
I have a laptop that still has a DVD player. And it can still copy data on the DVD.
I'm looking for, how old is that then probably?
I think it's over 15 years.
Okay.
And I'm worried if it breaks, I might not be able to fix the lens on that DVD player.
Yeah, well, that's the whole issue with all this, right? So we're going to take calls now. Thank you guys for weighing in. I still got to think about my answer, by the way, to that. But we're hoping if you're listening, it might have sparked something in you. So what's the oldest thing that you've got in your life, tech-wise or appliance or gadget? Also, did you fix it? If so, how'd you fix it? Did you find someone to fix it? We're talking about the skills that will come with this. And how do you feel about the right to repair? That whole phrase, they don't make things like they used to. They make them to break in 8 or 10 years. Is that something that you would like to see change in Manitoba, a law like that here? At any rate, we want to hear about all your old things that are still kicking around. I got new burners for our barbecue. Put it all in, remade the whole thing. I was quite proud of myself. 788-3205 is where you can call us. 788-3205 with your stories and examples. All right, Corey Funk is here. I didn't give you an opportunity to weigh in, but maybe you want to.
Yeah, my parents have a fridge in their basement that is
at least as old as I am.
Yeah. Does it have the handle, the 50s handle?
No, not that one. It's old. It's a vertical one, but
Okay.
it's just always been there.
Okay,
It's
as old
been in
as
the
you.
fridge.
Is it avocado
it's-
green or is it?
No, it's not. It's just a basic, maybe kind of like off white, like eggshell white.
It was called almond in the 80s.
Yeah,
I'll
there
have
we
you know.
go. Exactly. It kind of looks like it's like stained by cigarette smoke, but it still works
Yep.
great. 30 years on. Meanwhile, I have a fridge that went kaput in my house. That's like one
Right.
of those fancy stainless steel ones that just
Mhm.
went gone in like 4 years.
That's why everyone's talking about
Yep. Mm-hmm.
this. That's why the law's in Quebec. By the way, cigarette stained smoke as a color didn't go over well, so they went to almond.
Yeah, that's a better branding move, I think. Yeah.
Okay, we actually, because we're talking to you, why don't you just give us the commuter line, then we'll get Abby to give our weather here.
Yeah, and also just a reminder, that school zone starts September 1st.
Oh, yes,
so
yeah,
just start maybe practicing
Thinking about it.
now. That's my one reminder for folks. Also, 391 highway from Leaf Rapids to Lynn Lake closed because of wildfires. I'm sure you're well aware if you're up north right now. The number to call if you see anything else going on, though, give me a call, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
And Abby, now the forecast.
Nothing too extreme, just I call it pleasant summer weather in the forecast for today. We're going to see a mix of sun and clouds across most of the regions. 19 degrees right now in Winnipeg, expecting a mix of sun and clouds, a slim chance of showers and thunderstorms in the forecast, and we'll see a clear evening.
Well, as I mentioned, while COVID-19 might seem like a bit of a fading memory, it is still lurking, of course. It's very much still in our communities. There's new national data that came out yesterday. It shows that Manitoba has some of the highest COVID wastewater counts in the country, alongside Newfoundland. So those wastewater numbers, you might recall, can indicate a high level of COVID-19, flu, or RSV in communities. So the wastewater monitoring dashboard puts out this data. They release national data regularly, and they can help identify potential hotspots. So as kids head back to school next week, as Corey just mentioned, how much of a concern are these numbers? Here to help us understand the current data is Dr. Christopher Labos, who joins us via Zoom. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
So what rather did this new data reveal about COVID-19? I mentioned, Manitoba, but across the country, what did this show?
Well, you are seeing a bit of an uptick, and this is unfortunately to be expected. We saw the same sort of thing last year at the end of the summer as schools are starting up, that you have a sort of a late summer peak in cases. Manitoba does seem to be the highest across the country, which is a bit difficult to explain because now, granted, there's always going to be some degree of national variation. But it's important to point out that even within Manitoba, there is variation because wastewater data is not uniform even across an entire province, right? There are different stations, and while it's high in Winnipeg North, it's not high in other places. So there is some variation, but I think globally, when you zoom out, what you see is as we're getting to the end of the summer, we're seeing the expected bump in COVID-19, with the anticipation being that we are probably going to see an increase of cases as we get into the fall and then winter months.
You mentioned some of the data points here, extrapolated to out some of the specifics. So Winnipeg's north, south, and west ends were singled out. You mentioned Winnipeg North for high and moderate levels. I wonder how concerned people should be about, findings like that across the city and in the province.
Well, it depends what you mean by concerned, right? If you had COVID in the past and survived it, you are probably not going to die of COVID now, especially if you've been vaccinated and especially if you get an updated booster in the fall, which you should definitely do. So if your concern is about mortality, you are probably not going to die. If your concern is about severe illness, getting vaccinated is a great way to sort of curb the impact of that. But there's a lot about COVID that goes beyond sort of the worst case scenario. We should be concerned about increasing viruses because it's not just about COVID, it's also influenza, it's also RSV. It's all the stuff that makes us sick, that makes us take time off work, that keeps kids home from school. All of these things have an impact on our society, even if it's a bit of a intangible, indirect impact. So there is stuff that we should do to minimize the impact of these viruses. Get vaccinated, of course, number one. But we also have to start talking about indoor air quality. I mean, we talked about it a lot during COVID, during the pandemic, and then just kind of forgot about it. A lot of our public buildings, especially our schools, especially our hospitals and things like, elder care homes and all that, they do not have good indoor air circulation. And so upgrading HVAC systems, putting in air filters to clean the air, that would make a difference because as any parent of a young child knows, it's not fun when your kids are sick and they have to stay home and you have to take time off work to stay home to take care of them. That is a thing that matters, even if it doesn't show up typically on government statistics.
I wonder, obviously back to school, as you alluded to, typically does mean more colds and flus going around, and everyone can logically understand why. Are we at a stage now in 2025 where COVID in the fall should be considered, the new normal?
Well, it depends what you mean by normal. Right? There's a difference between expected and accepted, right? It is expected that we're going to see more COVID cases, but that doesn't mean we should accept it because there's a lot that we can do to get rid of COVID. There were times when we were able to stamp down COVID with very, very basic and very simple public health measures. And some of these are, some of these are harder to implement. Some of these are easier to implement. Putting an air filter in classrooms, it won't completely eliminate COVID, but it will reduce it drastically. And that's a very easy thing to do. You can go to Costco and buy an air filter for not that much money. So putting that into our classrooms and into our public buildings would make a big difference. Making sure people get vaccinated, that would make a big difference. But also passing legislation that makes it easier for parents to keep their kids home and take time off work and giving them sick days. This was a big conversation we had during COVID between making sure people have mandatory sick days from work so that when they get sick, they can stay home and not infect other people, or they can keep their kids home without worrying about childcare and daycare. So this is stuff that we can do that would make an impact. And while each thing individually isn't going to fix the problem, taken together, they can reduce the problem substantially and frankly, take a lot of the burden off of our healthcare system.
Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
That is Dr. Christopher Labos, an epidemiologist and COVID-19 expert. We reached him this morning in Montreal.
CBC Music, live at Massey Hall, the most iconic music venue in Canada. An absolute milestone in the careers of musicians who stand on the historic stage. And you have a front row seat. All right. A new season of episodes now available. Bahamas, The Glorious Sons, The Sadies, Field Guy, Serena Ryder, O.C. Elliott, and Chantal Kreviazek. CBC Music, live at Massey Hall. Watch free on CBC Gem.
All right, we're asking about the old things you have that you fix or care to fix. We're talking about it because of the right to repair bill that they're looking at in Quebec. We're thinking tech, we're thinking cell phones, appliances, but I knew somebody was going to write in with more. And so our producer actually wrote in about his 1967 Honda Superhawk. That's his bike. I'm thinking cars and bikes. Yeah, we can keep those included. But I am wondering what you've got around the house. And also, if you're someone who repairs, if you understand how to repair and you live in this community, love to hear from you too. 788-3205. It is 19 in Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for being with us today. Well, we have a little bit of music from the Arkells this morning. This song is a collaboration because it's not just the Arkells. It's the Arkells and Cœur de Pirate. So we're finding out how the English-Canadian band ended up teaming up with one of Quebec's most beloved voices in Cœur de Pirate. The Arkells have always, they say, had a soft spot for French music. So when this track started to come together, they reached out. And here's what it sounds like. This is their tune, Danser avec toi. Yes, please. More collaborations. The Arkells and Coup de Pirates. And Danser avec toi. Grooving it on a Wednesday morning, Scott Reguer.
Yeah, like this.
Like
Midweek,
this, too.
not bad at all.
Right?
Feels like weekend music, which
I
is got me
know.
already looking ahead to Labor Day weekend.
I know. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing
No.
wrong with that. Let's not start there, though, talking football. We have a couple days left for that. Let's start
Yeah.
with baseball this morning, Scott Reguer, in Morning Sports, where the Jays have snatched defeat from the jaws of victory last night.
Yeah, which is to say they lost when they should have won, Marcy. And when that happens in this sport, it usually means there has been a bullpen collapse. And that was the case last night against the Twins. Toronto had a 4-3 lead in the ninth and then promptly gave it up. More specifically, Jeff Hoffman gave it up, allowing 4 runs in the end. So the Jays' closer, Marcy, has been part of a wider problem of late. Toronto's bullpen is the worst in the major leagues over the last month, although manager John Schneider doesn't sound overly fussed about it.
And every time I bring these guys in, you're expecting them to be who they are and what we expect them to be. And more often than not, they are. I mean, we've gotten to this point for a reason. And the trust will never, ever waver with those guys coming out of the pen. And the trust will never waver with the guys that are hitting or the starting pitchers. So some nights you don't have it. Tonight was one of those nights.
And so the Jays will try again tonight against the Twins, trying to take the rubber match against Minnesota. They will have Eric Lauer, who's been pretty darn steady on the mound.
Let's go to track and field. There's a concerning development for a Canadian athlete ahead of next month's World Championships.
Yeah, this surrounds gene testing. World Athletics put it in place last month, with the organization's president, Sebastian Coe, explaining the decision this way.
The process is very straightforward, frankly, very clear. And it's an important one because it maintains not just talking about the integrity of female women's sport, but actually guaranteeing it. We will doggedly protect the female category and we'll do whatever is necessary to do it. And we're not just talking about it.
So you heard Coe say that gene testing to prove female athletes are not biologically male is straightforward and clear. Well, not so, according to some Canadian athletes. As CBC Sports has learned, Marcy, at least 2 of them have had issues completing these tests. In one case, there was a problem processing results based on how a saliva sample was taken. In another, an athlete who's been training outside of the country in Europe needed to drive 10 hours round trip to Spain just to have blood drawn. In both cases, the tests were completed, with the first athlete saying they found it invasive and the second saying it was both disruptive to training and expensive, having to book a hotel overnight in Spain. In an article up on our website this morning, the names of these athletes have been withheld, as they say they fear reprisals for speaking out about the gender testing, which, by the way, is still illegal in many countries.
And let's finish on a much later note and the quote-unquote news that rocked the sports world yesterday. Nice. Well played.
Thank you. It's happening. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce tying the knot. They're going to tie the knot. The news broke yesterday as Iga Swiatek was winning her opening match at tennis's U.S. Open. The world number 2 was asked to share her thoughts.
Well, I'm just happy for her because she deserves the best. And obviously she had a lot of boyfriends. So hopefully this one will, stick forever. And I wish them all the best. Yeah.
Can you non-Taylor question? Is that okay?
No.
Okay.
And why on earth would Swiatek want to talk about tennis, after all? As for Swift, Marcy, odds makers now make her the overwhelming favorite to perform at halftime of February's Super Bowl. I guess, like so many others, they want to see Kelce lead Kansas City to another championship, retire, and then put his arm around his bride and walk into the sunset. Could almost write a schmaltzy pop song about that set of circumstances, Marcy. What Zach Claros thinks about his old roommate doing this?
I don't know. I guess
We've
he's
got to
going
get a clip from him.
We should try to see if he'll take a bunch of us to the wedding.
Seems sporting and expensive.
Man, oh man, those 2 are marketing machines.
They are.
All right, take care. Thank you, Scott.
You bet.
That is Scott Reguer with CBC Morning Sports. We want to mention here that the commute so far this Wednesday has been going okay. 788-3093 if you have any updates for us. We'd love to hear. We'll have a full look at the weather picture after your news in a moment. And then we have a story about a new fitness craze in Winnipeg and elsewhere. A Ukrainian newcomer is bouncing back, literally, with springs on her feet. She's created a community that's not only burning a lot of calories, but she says also making connections. So CBC's Jim Agapito visits the Fit Boot fitness class coming up right after our CBC Winnipeg news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, a warm start to Wednesday, 19 right now in downtown Winnipeg. A mix of sun and clouds with a chance of showers today, a high of 28. A narrow victory for the Progressive Conservatives yesterday in Spruce Woods. Colleen Robbins winning that constituency by just 70 votes. It's a big change from the 2023 election when the margin for victory for the Tories was more than 3,000 votes. Robbins says she is used to competitive elections. She helped a PC campaign in 2003 that had an even closer margin of victory.
I was on Leanne Rowett's team when she won by 13 votes, but never again did she have to worry, because like her, I will prove myself to this constituent that I'll work hard for them.
The MLA-elect is a former nurse and longtime PC party official and volunteer. The by-election was triggered when former PC MLA Grant Jackson jumped to federal politics. Kelly Saunders teaches political science at Brandon University. She says yesterday's result reflects Premier Wabkanu's popularity and weaknesses in fundraising and leadership for the Tories since they were defeated by the NDP in 2023.
They're in trouble. I mean, if they can't win a riding like Spruce Woods in southwest Manitoba very handily, then again, it speaks to the fact that they are still struggling to find their way. And, you know, the next election is not that far away.
And Saunders says the Liberal candidate, high school teacher Stephen Reed, ran a strong race and likely split the vote. The mayor of a Winnipeg suburb is taking flack from some constituents. She was caught on a hot mic venting frustration about residents opposed to townhouses and apartment buildings in their rural municipality. That story now from CBC reporter Bartley Kivas.
This just hit me, and I'm actually ready to resign and walk out.
That's Mayor Carla Devlin of East St. Paul, caught on a hot mic during a break in a council meeting on August 19th. More than 100 residents showed up to oppose a new planning framework. During the break, she and a planning official discussed making it simpler.
Well, how many times did I turn that down?
Some East St. Paul constituents are upset with the mayor's comments. Craig Hodkinson says most residents understand what a planning framework is supposed to accomplish.
Us not liking it doesn't mean that we're too dumb to understand it.
Devlin said in the statement she wasn't feeling well during the council meeting and she regrets her comments were overheard. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg grocery store manager hopes relief might be around the corner. Canada is set to drop tariffs on CUSMA-compliant goods from the U.S. on September 1st. Experts predict it will help grocery stores and customers. Braden Haleko with Downtown Family Foods says they've been feeling the burden of these tariffs for months.
It's definitely had a big impact. We've noticed huge spikes in things like coffee, Campbell's soup, all Campbell's products, oranges, orange juice, anything that would come from the United States. It's had a rising cost on our spending on what we pay for things, which translates to having a higher cost for the customer.
Aleko asks customers to be patient as any price drops may take time to hit store shelves. The latest Winnipeg street census shows more unhoused people in this city than any time in the past decade. End Homelessness Winnipeg has released the survey it did last fall. Volunteers fanned out across the city last November 5th, including going to encampments to collect the data. It found more than 2,400 people were experiencing homelessness. That number is almost double the last survey done in 2022. It also found 50% of respondents had been in the child welfare system at some point. 82% said the reason they were unhoused was because of a lack of affordable housing. To Latvia.
Prime Minister, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Welcome to Dodgy. Good to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Prime Minister Mark Carney meeting with Canadian troops deployed to Operation Reassurance. It is an ongoing mission to deter Russian aggression in Europe, and Carney has announced it will continue for at least another 4 years. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. The Steinbach Arts Council is taking its show on the road. The council is outgrowing its current space on 2nd Street, so it is now offering some of its workshops in places around Steinbach. Cassandra Cornelson is the council's manager of community programs. She says the council offers workshops on everything from Métis finger weaving to learning about Mennonite floor tile patterns.
We're going to kind of do a whole realm of different workshops. We love the culture and heritage because that's one of our main staples, but we'll be outreaching in a lot of different ways.
The council's hosting workshops at 2 seniors' homes, and it will offer a satellite workshop at Mennonite Heritage Village this fall. You can find the latest news as it's updated throughout the morning. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Let's get into our regional forecast now with Abby Adiyemi.
Good morning. We're looking at a warm start in the city. Expect a mix of sun and clouds across most of the regions with a few showers scattered across the province today. Winnipeg, we're seeing 19 degrees, mostly cloudy outside. Expect that mix of sun and clouds with a slim chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorms sometime in the afternoon. The winds will come light from the southwest, and it's going to shift to mild from the north later in the day. We'll see highs around 28 degrees. For the Pembina Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Alton, and Morris, all the way down to the U.S. border, we're also seeing temperatures hover between 18 and 19 degrees. Mostly cloudy at this time. We'll see that transition to a mix of sun and clouds later. A slim chance of showers also in the forecast with a risk of thunderstorms. Mild winds coming from the southwest, then it's going to turn north later in the day. Highs will be around 29 with the humidity factored in. It's going to feel close to 33 degrees. In the Westman region, Brandon all the way tracking it to the Minnedosa end, we're seeing temperatures around 9 degrees, enjoying some sunny conditions in that part of the day. These sunny conditions you're seeing in the Westman region will mix to cloudy conditions later. Then come a slim chance of showers later also with thunderstorms. Mild winds will come from the west, turning to northeast later. Highs around 29. In the Parkland region, Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, surrounding communities, we're seeing 11 degrees and sunny conditions also there. This sunny morning will transition to cloudy conditions by the afternoon period, along with a slim chance of showers with a risk of thunderstorms. Winds will be mild from the northeast. Highs will be around 28. Tracking the four conditions in the Interlake region, Gimli and surrounding communities. Now, we're looking at 15, 16 degrees in some areas. Mild winds coming from the south-southwest, and we'll see a mix of sun and clouds later transitioning to more like a slim chance of showers for that part of the province, along with a risk of thunderstorms. Temperatures will warm up to 25 degrees. Now we go up north. The powerful influence around in area 16 and partly cloudy at this time. Sunshine mixing with clouds later in the day. That would clear, and then we'll see the winds mild from the northeast. Temperatures will warm up to 25. Thompson, 9 degrees. Misty conditions we're spotting in Thompson and, all the way towards Gillam at this time. Cloudy conditions will also come in once this misty conditions clear. 9 degrees, we're seeing a slim chance of showers in the forecast. That should give way around the noon period, and then the wind direction will shift from the east to the northeast later. Highs will be around 20. Churchill, 6, cloudy. That should clear as you get into the morning. Then we'll see temperatures warm up to 15 degrees today. So it's more like warm, partly cloudy skies, and a few showers in the forecast today. Winnipeg, 19 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
And Corey Funk is here just to remind us about things in the commute.
Yes, just got a call from Nicholas on the commuter line, actually. He said northbound, Century, always northbound, just before it splits off to King Edward, so it's just after St. Matthews there, you lose 2 lanes to construction. And it was really, really backed up to the point where he's like, nah, I'm not even going to wait for this. I'm going to turn off.
Yesterday I had that in the middle of the afternoon.
Yeah.
It backs up fast there.
Yeah. So heads up there. You might want to avoid that actually if you can. But other than that, though, the commute's been pretty quiet so far. But if you see something going on out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'll let folks know what you're seeing. 204-788-3093.
Well, we're also getting calls actually about something we had on in the last hour of the show. We were hearing about something changing in Quebec. So in October, new rules in Quebec, that province, are going to fight back against what they call planned obsolescence. They're giving consumers the right to repair. And so this is all about sort of the new tech. It only is designed to last 8 to 10 years. So now you have the right to repair it. That had already shifted. But it's going to go further than that. This law in Quebec is going to say that the companies that sell you this stuff are going to have to provide parts to help you repair. So it got us thinking about all the old things that you've got kicking around that have either lasted or you've repaired yourself in Manitoba.
Hi, this is Patricia Ramrall calling. So the oldest appliance that we have in our house is going to turn 80 this year. Our house, or at 80 next year. It was built into our house in 1946, and it is our little stove. I call it my Lucy stove because it looks like the one Lucille Ball used in her comedies. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for calling. I love that. Now, obviously, for those of you on our YouTube stream, you're thinking, I want to see these appliances too. So if you want to get us a picture, you can email us, radio893@cbc.ca, and you can write your story there if you'd like. But we love hearing the stories. We've got a whole bunch of calls on the listener line, and we'll take more. We'll hear them after 8, 788-3205. Well, next on Information Radio, Irina Maximenko left her friends, her family, and a booming aviation business when Russia attacked Ukraine. She says never in a million years did she think she'd be doing this.
1, 2, 3, 4. Scissors. Triangle.
So what we're listening to are the sounds of Fit Boots. It's a fitness class, and people are bouncing around. It's a high-energy, low-impact workout. It uses ski boots. That's what's on their feet. And then there's like a spring on the bottom that helps you bounce up and down. But Irina says that Fit Boots has given her more than just a workout. It's given her, she says, a community. CBC's Jim Agapito strapped on some Fit Boots himself, and he visited Irina at the Drop-In Dance Studio in Winnipeg.
Irina, make sure I don't die. This is my present for you. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I'm Irina Maximenko. I'm from Ukraine. I'm a fitness coach in Winnipeg. On 22nd February 2022, I with my husband went on our honeymoon in Italy. And just after 2 days, started the war. In Ukrainian, I had own company, private air travel on planes and helicopters. And we had so very beautiful life, but we saw on TV bomb hit building, we heard our apartment, and we decided not to return in our country. Canada opened programs for Ukrainian people, and we got our visas and come here. And I started cleaner in hotel for dogs. After pregnant, I put on 27 kilograms, and my dreams to get fit again. I opened women's community who wanted to play squash, and in 1 year, with me, 200 people lost weight. After this, I opened classes squash, and after this, Fit Boots.
Whenever you do not make fun of me, people. Front, side, back, cross. Okay? Side, back, and twice jumping jack. Okay?
Okay, I will do my best.
4, 3, 2 hands front. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Full name Anna Belyaha. I couldn't find something like, not just for my body, but for my soul. Something would will relieve me, not just physically, but my mental. When I found this Fit Boots, I came first time, oh my God, I feel really amazing. It's like, you know, I can call this, like my husband said as well, it's mental vacation. Really, I'm more calm after that. I really spend a lot of energy here, and my mood is better, and even my forms is better.
My name is Libava Leontieva. It's really exciting when you do it because you feel like you're flying. Honestly, it's like you're jumping, you're flying, and besides you're dancing. So something a combination with like, and for me, I'm doing it for my health. I really lost like 20 pounds in 4 months. I would say it's an incredible result for me. I never lost. It's a hard cardio to do. Just imagine that you're doing jumping jacks for 1 hour and then you're like non-stop. It's like crazy for sure. It's super hard.
Yeah, you are begging for a sip of water. Honestly, I'm just joking.
So you want to do it more?
One more.
It's always great to hear about success stories, right? And to flip it all around and to find community, what does that mean?
Well, I am incredibly proud of her, for sure. It's fills my heart like full, because it's really great, as I said, like then people, well, as the newcomers, they start all over again, their new life, they have to learn the new language, they have to start a new business, and they are successful. I am so proud of her, for sure.
My name is Julia Samafau. Most important is support of the community. So whenever there is Ukrainians or whoever starts something new and interesting, we always support you and encourage others.
I think you always must believe in you. Always. We lost a house, home, family, maybe friends.
Up, 1, 2, one more. Just 1, 2, finish. Yes.
You can only do it this moment.
So you're taking the moment.
Yep.
And how does that feel?
Now, amazing.
What a fun video if you're watching our show this morning on YouTube to see everybody bouncing around in those ski boots. It really is like not like a coil spring on the bottom, but like a blade spring. Jim, you did pretty good. Our reporter, CBC's Jim Agapito, out learning about it, but also learning about, as you heard, how community is being built through this. Jim was at the Drop-In Dance Studio in Winnipeg, and if you want more information, you can check out the Instagram pages that were part of, this class. And so the instructor is Irina Maximenko.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
It is right now 13 minutes to 8 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Well, still ahead on the show this morning, there is, of course, no question about it. Manitoba has had a long, hot, fiery summer. And thanks to climate change, summer months marked by wildfires might now be the new normal, we understand. So how prepared is the federal government to deal with the new reality? We're going to talk to the Minister of Emergency Management. She is in Manitoba. She's going to be live in studio with us right after 8 o'clock. And that is with us this morning. Eleanor Orshevsky will be with us in studio. So stay tuned. That's after 8. Right now, 19 degrees. It's mostly cloudy in the city of Winnipeg. And next on the program, let's build on something you might have heard in the news. Canada set to drop some of its retaliatory tariffs on American goods as early as next month. So last week, the Prime Minister announced his plans to lift counter tariffs on CUSMA-compliant goods coming from the States. CUSMA, as you likely know, is the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement. It covers products that were grown or produced in those countries, meaning some of your favorite fruits, coffee, and tea may soon cost a lot less at the checkout. We've been watching CUSMA because a lot of our goods under CUSMA are what impacts Manitobans in our industries. But after months of prioritizing buying local on the consumer end, how eager are you to embrace this? Earlier this week, CBC's Gavin Axelrod wanted to find out, so he headed out to one of the grocers, to Superstore. He spoke to Chris Carlisle at a local superstore in Winnipeg, and she says she's always reading the labels to ensure that things that she buys are locally made.
I prefer Canadian all the way.
Why is it so important for you right now to be buying Canadian?
I think it's part of our Canadian identity. I don't want to be taken over by the States.
I was going to ask you, so on September 1st, some of the counter tariffs on U.S. goods are going to be dropped, and people are expecting things to get a bit cheaper. Do you think you'll start buying products from the U.S. again after those counter tariffs are dropped?
Probably not. No, probably not. I think we're limited for products like coffee. I think a lot of it is processed in the States, but I do look at labels. I don't want to be controlled by another country, and I think I want to have options, and it seems like the States has a monopoly on us when it comes to products.
I'm Maureen.
Dennis.
I see you've got a full cart full of stuff here. When you're in the grocery store, how much are you looking at the labels and where products come from these days?
We try to. This is American.
On September 1st, they're going to take some tariffs off of U.S. imported goods. Once those tariffs are dropped, do you see yourself buying more American products?
We're still going to try to get Canadian as much as possible because you want to support local as much as possible.
Have you always looked at buying Canadian in the grocery store, or has it just been since the tariffs?
It is a new thing. We're mostly checking prices, but it's availability. If you need a vegetable and before we just bought it, but now we do think more about it being from Canada.
So let's talk about this more. That was some shoppers. Those were rather some shoppers that CBC's Gavin Axelrod spoke with in Winnipeg at a superstore earlier this week. Sylvain Charlebois is with us, visiting scholar at McGill University. He specializes in food distribution and food policy. He's here live via Zoom. Hi there.
Good morning.
So let's start with those shoppers, and then we'll build out what products are, going to be affected here. Because what we heard from them is that they are trying to be buying Canadian, but. So what do you think of the timing of this?
I think it's long overdue, to be honest. We were very concerned about food inflation last week. We saw our food inflation rate go up to 3.4%, which is a difference of 1.7% compared to the general inflation rate. So what that means basically is when you go to the grocery store, you'll notice higher food prices. And so kids are going back to school. Parents will be looking for deals at the grocery store. And many categories that have been impacted by Canada tariffs have impacted products that likely parents will be buying for the school year. So this is very timely, but to be honest, it is going to take a while for grocers to get through their own inventories that have been tariffed. So we are expecting prices to start dropping probably end of September, early October.
Got it. Because they'll first have to sell those other goods that were tariffed still at that higher rate because they have them in stock.
The shelf life for many of these products is pretty lengthy. So that's why it'll take a while, like coffee or tea or pasta, lots of frozen goods. I'm not sure people were aware, but a lot of products were counter tariff because I think the overpowering narrative out there over the last several months was, well, most of it is CUSMA exempt, but we were in breach of CUSMA, so a lot of products were being tariff impacting food inflation in Canada.
So you mentioned coffee. We heard in the news, citrus fruits, orange juice maybe is one that people know already. Pickles, right? So there are a number of different things. You said some frozen food as well?
Yeah, everything in a jar. And for people out there, I know that a lot of people are looking for non-American products, which is fine. And we have noticed a difference in sales for American products. But the thing about counter tariffs that is incredibly dangerous for us all, really, no matter whether or not you're looking for Canadian or not, is that you're basically suppressing competition. You're discouraging grocers from carrying more products. And if there are fewer products, it means that there are fewer choices for consumers. And when that happens, typically, well, there's less competition. And when there's less competition, prices go up for everything. It's like the tide. So that's why you want to open things up as much as possible to keep all food products as affordable as possible.
You heard that couple saying they try to buy Canadian, and you mentioned the buy Canadian thinking. How do you think that this will impact that movement, or was it already waning in your view?
Well, when you look at the data, so when you look at surveys, people will say we'll look for Canadian as much as possible. So it's very consistent with what we're hearing out there. But when you actually look at sales data, it is pretty clear that there are two things happening. One, people are absolutely boycotting American products. They're avoiding American products, but grocers are giving consumers of other multinational choices from other parts of the world, like Peru. We're seeing more products from Mexico, Peru, Egypt, South Africa, Australia as well. So grocers have actually multinationalized their offering for sure, but it hasn't really helped Canadian products overall. But the other thing that we're hearing is that grocers aren't necessarily putting an effort in carrying more Canadian products as well. So this is certainly something that we'll keep an eye on. We'll actually look at two things. One, will the offering be more Canadianized into the fall? So will we see grocers making an effort to carry more Canadian options. And two, well, Peer Bank, the CEO of Loblaw, and the CEO of Metro, they're both on record saying that we are going to drop prices in the fall as a result of Friday's decision. So we'll be watching whether or not these prices are dropping.
There is I know this is a political question, but there is this CUSMA review coming up, right? How might the decision to drop these tariffs on American products help Canada during those negotiations?
Oh, it was critical. I mean, the U.S. ambassador to Canada was pretty clear about the fact that Canada was in breach of CUSMA, and so if you're as a partner, if you're in breach of your own trade agreement with the U.S., it doesn't bode well for the future. But now we are in compliance, which is certainly good news, I think. And regardless what we think about Washington and President Trump, it was, I think, an important thing for Prime Minister Carney to do. And so the decision on Friday was not only logical, but it really helped our cause for CUSMA 2.0.
Thanks for this morning, Sylvain. Just to reiterate the big points out of our interview, you said that we expect probably October is going to be around when the consumer and listeners, this morning can actually expect to see things going down because of existing inventory. It's going to take a few months.
Yeah, and there's a long list that I posted on X of products you're expecting to become more affordable into the fall. So there's actually quite a long list there.
Okay, great. So that's you on X, you said, Sylvain?
That's right, yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
Who are you on X? Are you Sylvain Charlebois if people are looking for you?
Food professor.
Love that. Okay.
Food professor.
Thank you for that, food professor, and thanks for your time today.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So check out that list on X, Food Professor, a.k.a. Sylvain Charlebois, who's been with us this morning, a visiting scholar at McGill University. He specializes in food distribution and food policy. It is now 3 minutes to 8 o'clock on 89.3 FM, 990 AM. On that app and YouTube, you're on CBC. We'll check the weather and the traffic situation momentarily. Right now, let's get into those headlines with CBC's Heather Wells.
Good morning. A narrow victory for the Progressive Conservatives in Spruce Woods. Colleen Robbins winning that constituency in yesterday's by-election by just 70 votes. Brandon University political science teacher Kelly Saunders says the close vote is clearly a win for the NDP. She says the result reflects Premier Rob Canu's popularity. Saunders also says the fact the PCs did not win Spruce Woods by a large margin suggests the party is still struggling to find its way. And Parks Canada has removed the superintendent of Riding Mountain National Park after a backlash from businesses and cottagers over a boat ban concerning zebra mussels. We'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
After 8 o'clock, we're going to hear more of your calls about the things that are obsolete in your lives and that you've been fixing, so stay tuned for that. Also, I mentioned weather and traffic, so let's update that. We know that some of the ongoing construction is still really a pain. We got a call about Century after St. Matthews. Century, of course, runs northbound. You're losing 2 lanes. It gets slow there really fast. You might want to find an alternate route. 788-3093 is where you can reach us. In weather, mostly cloudy, 19 degrees. Today, mix of sun and cloud, risk of an afternoon thunderstorm, and a high of 28 degrees is what we're expecting. But with humidity, it's going to feel like 33. So we're kind of in that fall clothes, summer clothes kind of point in our summer. You might want to just have some layers today. Coming up after 8 o'clock on the program, Manitoba is no longer under a state of emergency, but a lot of people are still away from home. They're waiting for evacuation orders to be lifted because of wildfires. We will be joined in studio live by the Federal Minister of Emergency Management. She's going to reflect on this year's wildfire season and also talk about moving forward, what more the federal government can put in place to help what now many are saying is going to be more of a regular occurrence in this country. So stay tuned. She is also responsible for Prairie's Economic Development Canada. So we'll talk about tariffs, and specifically canola tariffs, which she's Chinese tariffs on canola, which she's weighed in on before. So stay tuned. That's all still ahead live on CBC.
On cue.
I'm Talia Schlanger in for Tom Power. Raphael Bob Waxberg is the creative mind behind the adult cartoon BoJack Horseman.
Guess I'll give up forever. That's the spirit.
He'll tell you about his new show, Long Story Short.
I should suffer in silence?
Yes, that is what life is about.
And why he likes to explore big emotional feelings through animation.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current.
I'm Susan Bonner. Hundreds of U.S. National Guard troops have been patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C. as part of Donald Trump's plan to crack down on crime. Now they are armed. What this means and which cities might be next, coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Kate McKenna.
Prime Minister, good morning. Good morning, John. Welcome to Dodgy. Good to see you. Very much. Thanks for your service. Good morning, sir.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Latvia, meeting Canadian troops stationed there with Operation Reassurance. It's part of a mission to deter Russian aggression in Europe. Yesterday, Carney announced he will keep Canadian troops in Latvia until 2029. The CBC's Murray Brewster is traveling with the Prime Minister. We reached him in a mess tent on the base. Murray, tell us about the Prime Minister's decision to extend this mission.
Well, in many respects, the extension of this mission was expected. I mean, Canada is leading the multinational NATO brigade. It has for a number of years now. It would be a tough commitment to walk away from. It is Canada's largest overseas deployment, and it is our biggest international contribution to deterrence. Now, the Prime Minister said that the threat from Russia is long-term and that it's not going away anytime soon.
Putin seeks darkness, not glasnost. He seeks empire, not perestroika. We can't trust but verify with Putin. We must deter and fortify.
Now, this is coming on the heels of the Carney government putting $9 billion extra dollars into the Defense Department to get Canada to meet its 2% GDP NATO commitment.
What does this mean for members of the Canadian military?
Well, the military is facing personnel shortages at home. It's also facing increased demands at home because it's being deployed more often to fight wildfires and to deal with natural disasters. So it's going to put a strain on the forces as they try to rebuild. The Chief of the Defense Staff has said that the military is looking to recruit more people, but it is still a building process. The commander of the multinational brigade is Canadian Colonel Chris Reeves, and this is what he had to say about the extension of the mission.
And the government of Canada just told me that we got your back.
There are approximately 2,500 Canadian troops that are part of this deployment. Overall, the brigade that they're leading with 14 other nations makes it 3,500 troops in Latvia here to deter Russia in case anything goes wrong in the Baltics.
Murray Brewster in Latvia. Thanks, Murray.
You're welcome.
U.S. President Donald Trump's 50% tariff on India kicks in this morning. Trump threatened the levy in the past as a response to India's continued purchase of Russian oil. The White House says it is indirectly funding Moscow's war in Ukraine. But many say this could have severe consequences with one of America's key trading partners. The CBC's South Asia correspondent Salima Shivji has more.
The machines polishing and cutting gems in India's diamond hub in the western state of Gujarat are still running, but much more slowly, with the tariff on India's exports to the United States now doubled to 50%.
25% also was very difficult to digest, 50% to entire industries in trauma.
A disaster scenario, says Kirit Bansali, who heads India's Gem and Diamond Industries Export Promotion Council. Some 175,000 workers will be directly affected, he says. And the worst of it?
At present, I don't see any good news to come.
The extra tariff is punishment, U.S. President Donald Trump says, because India buys Russian oil. It's cast a chill over U.S.-India relations, plunging not just India's diamond industry, but also shrimp exporters, clothing manufacturers, and carpet makers into a panic.
Mr. Trump, of course, wants a win, and everyone else seems to be giving him a win.
But it's hard for India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to make concessions with a domestic audience paying close attention, says foreign policy analyst Harsh Panth with Delhi's Observer Research Foundation, especially as Trump repeatedly tries to take credit for a de-escalation of tensions between India and bitter rival Pakistan earlier this year.
The public mood has hardened against Mr. Trump and the administration.
And so trade talks to alleviate the new import duties are not in good shape, leaving many working in the factories affected worried about what's next. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Vancouver.
At least 34 people are dead as monsoon rains continue to fall on parts of India and Pakistan. Several other people were injured in a landslide during a Hindu pilgrimage in India's northern Katra area. Rescue crews continue to scour the Himalayan region, and officials have now suspended the annual pilgrimage. Monsoon rains have been pounding both countries for weeks. More than 150,000 people have been displaced because of flooding and landslides. The United States Special Envoy to the Middle East is making a bold prediction. He says the war in Gaza will be settled before the end of the year. Today, U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to chair a meeting on the war in Gaza. Steve Witkoff says the focus will be on a post-war plan for rebuilding the region. The CBC's Lisa Shing joins me now from Washington. Lisa, what can you tell us about this meeting with Donald Trump?
Well, Kate, we don't have a lot of details at this point, just that U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said in an interview on Fox News there will be talks later today on what the next day in Gaza looks like, referencing the end of Israel's war in the territory. Now, remember earlier this year, Trump floated the idea the U.S. should take over control of the region, clear out its 2 million residents, and build seaside real estate, calling it the Riviera of the Middle East. That plan heavily criticized by European and Arab states. This is what Witkoff said yesterday.
We've got a large meeting in the White House tomorrow, chaired by the president, and it's a very comprehensive plan we're putting together on the next day that I think many people are going to be, they're going to see how robust it is and how well-meaning it is. And it reflects President Trump's humanitarian motives here.
Witkoff also said he expected the war to be settled by the end of the year, but did not offer any concrete details on that.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is also set to hold a meeting on Gaza. What do we know about that?
Yeah, so according to Rubio's public schedule, he has a meeting scheduled with Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar at the State Department this afternoon. And this comes as the U.S. has mostly been silent around the growing public condemnation of Israel as famine unfolds in Gaza and as mediators wait on Israel to accept a ceasefire deal Hamas agreed to a week ago. So all of this unfolding as the latest Israeli attack killed 20 people at a hospital in the south earlier this week.
All right. Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Lisa Shing in Washington. Police in Haiti say they have regained control of a critical telecommunications hub. It was seized by heavily armed gangs last week. The move briefly disrupted air traffic and internet connections. Haiti's National Police launched an operation that began before dawn on Monday to regain control of the Teleco site. They did not say how many people were killed in that mission, but this is being seen as a rare success for Haitian authorities and the UN-backed mission led by Kenyan police, which have struggled to take Port-au-Prince back from gangs. A Cree community in Saskatchewan is pushing to become the newest First Nation in Canada. The federal government forced the Peter Chapman Band to merge into a larger nation more than a century ago. But after a decades-long fight, the community has renewed hope it will get official recognition. Alexander Silberman has the story.
This was just a canola field a year and a half ago.
In the heart of central Saskatchewan, Adam Whitehead is giving a tour of his busy community of Peter Chapman First Nation, with dozens of buildings quickly rising next to fields of wheat. A new band office, public works garage, sports fields, and 28 houses. Just the start of plans for the nation.
Shows the government that we are serious.
Whitehead, a band counselor, says the construction boom is part of a renewed push to become an independent First Nation band. The federal government forced it to merge with two others in the early 1900s and still considers Peter Chapman part of James Smith Cree Nation.
Historically, we were supposed to be a First Nation on our own.
Chief Robert Head says regaining recognition will allow for funding agreements with Ottawa on healthcare, housing, and education.
Should have allowed us to evolve as our own First Nation. But all that was taken away from us.
The federal government says it's currently engaged in a process with the three communities to consider the split. Elder and former Chief Phyllis Head says watching the community grow gives her hope.
For many, many years, this issue has been worked on and it's going to become a reality, you know.
A reality the three communities say will help right a historical wrong. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Peter Chapman, First Nation.
That's the latest national and international news from World Report. If you're enjoying the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Kate McKenna. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. This is CBC. It's going to be muggy out there today. We had a little bit of rain overnight. Abby's going to get us into the forecast. Also, we have some fun calls on this half hour. Well, I don't know how much fun it's been when your stuff's been breaking down and you have to repair it. But you've been calling us with the oldest appliances and things that you have in your life because we talked about Quebec looking at passing this new law this fall to try to have a better right to repair things because everything goes, is obsolete so quickly now. So they're going to put some pressure on manufacturers in that province. And we're hearing from you in Manitoba about what you have hanging around. But our feature interview this half hour is with the Federal Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience, also responsible for Prairie Economic Development Canada. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about wildfires, tariffs, canola farmers, and protection. Stay with us. Eleanor Oshevsky is in our CBC studio in Winnipeg, so that interview's coming up. Right now, though, let's just plug you into weather, traffic, and headlines, starting with headlines and Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, closing the gap.
The idea of an urban-rural divide? Not anymore.
Wabka News, NDP losing yesterday's by-election in Spruce Woods, but they only lost by 70 votes. The PC's Colleen Robbins is the new MLA, but even though the NDP failed to flip that seat, Brandon University political scientist Kelly Saunders says the NDP is building momentum, while she says the PCs appear to be struggling to find their way. The latest Winnipeg street census shows more unhoused people in this city than any time in the past decade. End Homelessness Winnipeg has released the survey it did last fall when volunteers fanned out across the city, taking polls and collecting data. It found more than 2,400 people were experiencing homelessness. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
That on the heels of a series we were doing, talking to people who are living houseless in Winnipeg. So we will hear more about that in the weeks ahead. Well, you just saw Corey Funk pass by that camera on YouTube. Our show is live. Corey's going to start here with traffic, and then we'll get back into the weather forecast. What's up?
Yes. So one key thing to keep an eye out for, really the only major issue you've heard of this morning, is on Century, which of course is northbound. There's construction happening there that has kind of lanes kind of closed here and there, and that's causing big backups. That's northbound Century just past St. Matthews between Ellis and Saskatchewan there. There's that construction going on, and that's caused big backups there. You could expect that to be happening pretty much from now until September 10th or so is when that's expected to wrap up. So you may want to avoid that. Nicholas called and said he just avoided that altogether. He actually turned off because it was just so backed up. If you see anything else going on out there, give us a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Cor.
Thank you.
And Abby Adiemi, how's the day going to be?
It's already looking sunny outside. We should expect some partly cloudy conditions. 19 degrees still in the city. Pleasant morning we're going to get. A gentle mix of sun and clouds will roll in later. And late in the morning, we should see temperatures around the low 20s. As we move into the afternoon, the temperatures will peak around 25, 26. With the humidity factored in, it will feel closer to 31. There's a slim chance of showers in the forecast somewhere with thunderstorms, and the winds will be shifting to the north, gusting up to 40 kilometers later. But if you have plans in the evening, it's going to be really, really nice. Those showers will definitely be moving off the region at that time, and we'll see some clear conditions. And later overnight, we'll see temperatures cool off to around 12 degrees. So beautiful evening ahead.
And now now to my interview with the Federal Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience, who is in Winnipeg, as I mentioned, for a visit today. Minister Eleanor Olszewski is also responsible for Prairie's Economic Development Canada. And we have been talking a lot about economic development, diversification in these last couple of weeks in Manitoba. Yesterday, the Prime Minister weighing in on the Port of Churchill. And of course, we know what's been going on with tariffs and the lifting of the CUSMA counter tariffs. Now, during her visit here, Olszewski plans to take a tour of the city, I understand, as well as meet with some stakeholders in manufacturing. Before that, though, she's giving us some time in our CBC studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. A total pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, I looked at your agenda. I don't know how much detail you'll give us. I'm hoping a little bit. But one of the things that I know you're doing is meeting with, people. You have an announcement with the manufacturing businesses here who have been really hit hard by tariffs. I know that we were in Morden Winkler talking to some folks there about their businesses and changes in staffing, worries with the American contracts. Can you give us sort of an indication about what your government might be doing to sort of help them around their issues?
What I can tell you with respect to the announcement tomorrow is not who's receiving the funding, because, of course, the announcement's tomorrow. But I can tell you that Prairies Can has invested more than $20 million in the manufacturing and agricultural sectors in Manitoba. And that will provide, I think, a tremendous benefit to entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized businesses all across Manitoba. And of course, when Manitoba does well and the Prairie region does well, our entire country does well.
What are your goals for this visit overall?
My initial goal over the summer was to make sure that I visited each of the Prairie provinces, because as the representative for Prairies Canada, I'm responsible for each of the Western provinces. And so, of course, live in Alberta and spent some of the summer there, and have been to Saskatchewan as well. And this is kind of the third and last leg of what I'm doing this summer. And it's been interesting because in addition to making announcements and visiting people with respect to Prairies Can, I've been able to talk to a lot of people about the wildfires as well. And it's no secret that Saskatchewan and Manitoba were hardest hit this season. Not a doubt about that.
What on the federal level, what's some of the work you're still doing to that end in helping communities, some of which are still under evacuation?
Yeah, do you know what? If you don't mind, Marcy, I would really like to just spend a moment thanking the people that have assisted the people of Manitoba with respect to fighting the wildfires, and that includes everyone from the armed forces who did evacuations, to firefighters, to the humanitarian workforce such as Red Cross and St. John's Ambulance. A number of these people, especially firefighters and the armed forces, put themselves in harm's way to save the people of Manitoba and look out for their families and their communities. So we are deeply grateful to them. And I want to also acknowledge what a difficult fire season it's been for Indigenous peoples, particularly those who live in northern Manitoba and small reserves, because, as you know, evacuating those individuals was a terrible challenge. And I understand that a number of people aren't back at home yet. And my heart really goes out to each and every one of First Nations individuals that are not back in their homes yet.
Some of the things your government's doing when it comes to fighting the fires, the feds have put in over $540,000 into training nearly 100 new community firefighters, I understand. But as you know, Ken McMullen, who's on our show a lot, is president of the Canadian Association of Fire Chiefs. He's in Red Deer. But there's continuing this they continue to push for this coordination efforts to be better. So they want a national fire administration in Canada center set up. And because I know you're on record talking about how this is going to be the new norm, like wildfires, we have to deal with this. Is that something that your government is going to commit to, a new national center to improve coordination?
I can tell you that since I started in this portfolio, which was not that long ago, I've had an opportunity to see a lot of gaps and see where some challenges are. And I'm basically looking at every option to make sure that we coordinate as between provinces and territories, municipalities, and the federal government as rapidly and as efficiently as possible. And absolutely under consideration is an emergency management agency And so all of these things are indeed under consideration. I would like to mention, though, Marcy, that I think, we already have an integrated firefighting center. And I would say that thus far through this fire season, that coordination that's done by CIFC, the Canadian Integrated Firefighting Centre, has done an amazing job of assisting our department in coordinating wildfire response across the country, everything from sending out firefighters to making sure equipment, helicopters, planes are exchanged between provinces. So some things have gone very, very well this fire season.
If I may interject,
Sure.
just because you said some things have gone well, but you said you've also seen some gaps.
Yes.
You're newer in the role, but you've been already seeing gaps.
Yep.
Can you give us an example of what you mean by that? Like what kind of a gap?
Well, I think with respect to evacuation of First Nations, as I mentioned a few moments ago, that was incredibly difficult, and we need to do some work in that area with respect to communications with First Nations, how we handle evacuations, but even more importantly, Indigenous Services Canada will need to work with especially Northern First Nations to make sure that their communities are resilient so that they can so that we can help them take steps to ensure that the risk of fires in their communities is mitigated and that they have adequate equipment and resources to handle the next fire season.
You're raising evacuations and needing better coordination. That was, as you likely well know, that the one of the big concerns here was people were still here. When are we getting out? When is the military coming? Is that the kind of thing you're talking about? Is a quicker response, but also resourcefulness when things happen, better equipment on the ground in communities?
Yes, humanitarian workforce help, such as the Red Cross, for example, making sure that that's available more quickly. But in terms of evacuations, if I could focus on that for a minute, they were so difficult because First Nations in the area of those reserves, the runways were very small. We couldn't land big planes, so we were evacuating people by helicopter, and so only able to take a handful of people at a time, not able to land like a Hercules or bigger planes in those areas. So this is also something we need to address, is evacuating, getting people to safety more quickly.
We're live on CBC with Federal Minister Eleanor Olszewski, who is in Winnipeg for a short visit. She's responsible for Prairies Economic Development Canada, but of course also emergency management and community resilience. Before we leave the wildfire, story, which is obviously the biggest thing that's happened when it comes to emergency in this country in a long time, even though in Manitoba we just lifted our state of emergency, we're learning things about communication. I just, Minister, if we may play you a 45-second clip we have of a Manitoban. Erin Banville, their home is among 28 properties that burned in Lac du Bonnet this spring. This is what she said to CBC Manitoba's Josh Crabb. This is about her experience trying to get out of the fire zone.
Nobody was giving us notification to leave, so we kind of had to do it on our own.
You just saw what looked like a troubling situation.
A troubling situation, and the wind was coming direct for us. So kind of figuring out, oh yeah, that could be a situation, and we decided to go. We had a booster, so I was able to get on social media, Facebook. If it wasn't for Facebook, there would have been no notice, no nothing, which is a little weird, but yeah.
Is there anything you think the RM can do to improve communications during a time of crisis like that?
There has to be better notification systems, but they did the best they could with what they had at the time.
Hear a plane going over there, in case you're wondering. That's Josh talking to Manitoban Erin Banville. Obviously, notification is under jurisdiction of RMs. You heard her mentioning it there. What's their role in the federal government in this? Either in unifying some kind of, notification system or in funding municipalities for what they need? Because she raised something interesting there, which was service. So when we're out in Manitoba looking at some of these areas where people need to flee, they don't have cell towers. They don't have the infrastructure built. So municipality might actually choose to, try to invest in better service for people or a system. Where do you see the federal government's role being in this?
Well, I'd just like to take us back to kind of how response to wildfires works, which is that emergencies are responded to on a local level first. So that's at the municipal level. And then if the municipality is not able to handle a situation, then the province does. And so we step in basically as a last resort. So when the resources of a province are overwhelmed, with respect to notification, though, one of the things we are looking at, there's already a national public alerting system. And I can tell you that as part and parcel of my consideration about whether or not we should implement an agency or a national emergency management strategy.
For fires, yep.
Yeah. For
all
expanded,
emergencies, pardon me.
For all
Yep.
emergencies, exactly. That certainly notification does play a part in that, and we are looking at other mechanisms to ensure that notifications are timely as well. But generally speaking, notifications would be done on a local level.
Do you have worries, though? I mean, as a federal government, I mean, I know that governments, I respect that the money comes from different jurisdictions, but you're the federal minister, so I'm wondering how concerned you are when you hear people saying, we have breakdowns in those responses and we didn't know and we had to flee and we need a better system.
Yeah, obviously very concerned. And I can add to that throughout this wildfire season, I've been in close communications with my provincial counterparts, so Lisa Naylor here, and my counterparts in the other provinces and territories across the country as well. We've also had a federal, provincial, territorial meeting. And so all of these kinds of things like notifications are things that we are working on in concert, because the response to emergencies like wildfires is, as you quite rightly point out, a coordinated response. And certainly anything that I can do and my department can do to facilitate the efficiency of that, we'll be looking at. And, you know, Marcy, there'll be a lot of lessons learned from this wildfire season, not a doubt about that.
Just as a last question, because it's something I know you weighed in on before, I wanted to ask about farmers, because we've been watching what's happening with China and the tariffs. And we've been hearing, that there's obviously huge problems with the counter tariffs. You have said that that your government is still formulating the next step, but have stressed that trade negotiations and other specialists will be tasked with finding solutions to what's going on with these counter tariffs, which I hope I have my number right. They've been imposed 76% now on canola seed. That was last week, on top of the 100% duties applied to canola. I mean, especially canola farmers. Do you know yet what those next steps will be to try to sort of help farmers who are in this situation right now?
I do know that, like the other sectors that have been affected by tariffs, whether it's steel, aluminum, softwood, that absolutely our government will have the backs of people in the canola industry. And, we know that Manitoba canola is amongst the best canola grown in the world. And we also know, and I think the Prime Minister has been very clear, that we are going to protect our Canadian workers with respect to tariffs.
Is there an announcement that might be coming soon about what that next step might look like specifics about how the canola producers, for example, will be protected?
Well, I think that the Prime Minister's done an amazing job of responding to the other sectors within a very short period of time, and I have no hesitation in saying that we'll be doing the same with respect to canola.
Okay, so no detail this morning, but thank you very much for responding to it. Thank you for being here. You've given us a lot of time, and obviously we'll watch what comes out of your visits with stakeholders in Manitoba. Appreciate you being with CBC.
Thank you so much. A complete pleasure, Marcy. Thank you.
Live in studio, Eleanor Olszewski, the Federal Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience, also responsible for Prairies Economic Development Canada. And now, real quick, let's get to those listener lines I mentioned. What in your life is breaking down? Have you repaired anything? It's getting harder to repair. Now the province of Quebec is looking at a right to repair to help you out with that. We asked what is still kicking around: an old appliance, a piece of tech. Here's some calls we got.
I've got a blender that I bought in 1965, Osterizer. It's just as good as ever. I've never had to repair it or have any problem with it. So that's pretty good when you think about it.
Good morning. Keith Duane here. I still wake up every morning on a clock radio listening to you guys that I purchased in about 1983 when I was an undergrad at McGill University.
Hi. In regards to appliances, I have a washing machine. It's over 30 years old, and it's now, as the guy put it last year, on its last leg. So when I go to do my laundry, it's never guaranteed to finish.
I have a Royal vacuum cleaner. It's been repaired where the cord goes into the vacuum 3 times, but I've been told that it will probably outlive me now. It's already over 50 years old.
So, can you beat any of those? I love hearing all the things that you have that are aging but still working for you, or maybe you had them repaired. Call us 788-3205. Better yet, you have a picture of that old clock radio or maybe the blender. You can snap a photo and email it to us as well at radio893@cbc.ca. And the number again to call is 788-3205. Not sure what's going to come in as the oldest thing, or whether or not you're hoping that repair laws, like they're seeing in Quebec and going to be changing in Quebec in October, might be coming here to Manitoba. But we'd love it if you'd weigh in. Right now, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, we've got a mix of sun and clouds, but we may still see showers today. A slight chance of showers, a risk of a thunderstorm, and a high, hot again, of 28. A narrow victory for the Progressive Conservatives in Spruce Woods. Colleen Robbins winning that constituency in yesterday's by-election by just 70 votes. It's a big change from the 2023 provincial election when the margin for victory for the Tories was more than 3,000 votes. Robbins says she is used to competitive elections. She helped a PC campaign in 2003 with an even closer margin of victory.
I was on Leanne Rowett's team when she won by 13 votes, but never again did she have to worry, because like her, I will prove myself to this constituent that I'll work hard for them.
The MLA-elect is a former nurse and a longtime PC party official and volunteer. Kelly Saunders teaches political science at Brandon University. She says yesterday's result reflects Premier Wab Kinew's popularity.
This is clearly a win for the NDP, even though they technically did not manage to flip the seat, but certainly significantly closed the vote spread between themselves and the PCs. They certainly have a lot of momentum that they can build over the next 2 years as we head towards the next general election in Manitoba.
Saunders says the fact the PCs didn't win Spruce Woods by a large margin suggests the party's still struggling to find its way since losing to the NDP in 2023. Meanwhile, she says the Liberal candidate also ran a strong race and likely split the vote. A hot mic in East St. Paul has that area's mayor feeling a bit of heat herself.
This just hit me, and I'm actually ready to resign and walk out.
Mayor Carla Devlin caught on a hot mic during a break in a council meeting earlier this month. More than 100 residents showed up to oppose a new planning framework. During the break, Devlin and a planning official discussed, quote, dumbing down the plan. Resident Craig Hodgkinson is not happy with the mayor's comments.
Most people here have a pretty good idea of what the secondary plan framework is and what the goal of it is. And us not liking it doesn't mean that we're too dumb to understand it.
In a statement, Devlin says she was not feeling well during that council meeting and regrets her comments were overheard. The latest Winnipeg Street census shows more unhoused people in this city than any time in the past decade. End Homelessness Winnipeg has released the survey it did last fall. Volunteers fanned out across the city last November 5th, including going to encampments to collect data. It found more than 2,400 people were experiencing homelessness. The number almost doubled the last survey of 2022. The survey also found 50% of respondents had been in the child welfare system at some point. 82% said the reason they were unhoused was a lack of affordable housing. Well, you could start paying a little less at the grocery store this fall. September 1st is when Canada removes its tariffs on CUSMA-compliant U.S. goods. But experts warn consumers it may take some time before you see a difference on your grocery bill. Sylvain Charlebois is a visiting scholar at McGill University who specializes in food science, food policy, and food distribution.
The center of the store, dry goods, pantry goods. We're expecting many products to drop in price. Coffee will be a big one. Obviously, citrus fruits. Any citrus products will likely drop in price as well.
Charlebois expects Canadians to be even more conscious of labels in the grocery store, even though those levies are gone. A top Parks Canada official at Riding Mountain National Park has been replaced after a backlash from businesses and cottagers. In May, the park superintendent banned all boats on Clear Lake instead of proceeding with a one boat, one lake plan to control zebra mussels. The group Fairness for Clear Lake was formed after that ban. Jason Potter at the Wasagaming Chamber of Commerce says communication with park staff has been horrible for 2 years.
We just want to make it so that if there's something coming down, there's a proper dialogue between all people in the community.
Parks Canada confirms it has appointed a new superintendent, and Potter hopes the boat ban will be reversed. And the Steinbach Arts Council is taking its show on the road. The council is outgrowing its current space on 2nd Street, so it is now offering some of its workshops in places around Steinbach. Cassandra Cornelson is the council's manager of community programs. She says the council offers workshops on everything from Métis finger weaving to learning about Mennonite floor tile patterns.
We're going to kind of do a whole realm of different workshops. We love the culture and heritage because that's one of our main staples, but we'll be outreaching in a lot of different ways.
The council is hosting workshops at 2 seniors' homes in Steinbach, and it will offer a satellite workshop at Mennonite Heritage Village this fall. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
In our news department this morning, Heather Wells, Joni Nicolo, Megan Ketchison, and Bryce Hoy. Our live team, Abby Adiemi, Corey Funk, and Brad Lillies. Reporter who worked on an item today on the show, Jim Agapito, as well as associate producers who had contributions today, Chidi Akuma, Sid Sundant Horschig, and Jenna Badasso, as well thanks to Leif Larson, who is our producer here of our unit. It is 8:36, and Corey Funk's got a last look at the commute.
Century, Elliston, Saskatchewan, is road construction causing big backups there, so you may want to avoid that. That's expected to be a problem till September 10th.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And Abby?
Down south, temperatures warming to 28, 29 degrees, and up north we'll see 25 degrees. Winnipeg at 18 right now. If you've got plans, that showers will taper off in the evening and you can enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
And I'll just check in with Corey and Robin Summerfield. Also, big thanks to you. Robin's been helping produce with Life this week because Nellie Gonzalez is off. All right. That's all the information you need to know about our staff. And all the information you need to know about tomorrow is coming up on the morning show tomorrow. So I hope you join us then on Information Radio. My name is Marcy Marcusa. Next local programming on noon with Marjorie Dalhouse. Take care, be well. The Currents next, however, on 89.3.